Chapter 868. The peerless great divine ability, the saber that reverses time and space, shaking the world, had appeared. Time reversal blade, time suspension, and eternal exile were all heaven-defying abilities of space and time. However, they were several times stronger than the latter two. It was created by the ancient divine emperor when Hong Meng was first created. This ability could reverse time and space. It was extremely heaven-defying. Of course, the consumption of qi, blood, spirit, and dermic powers was no small matter. Jiang Tian would never use it easily. When one's cultivation was insufficient, each use would cause severe damage to one's body and lifespan. It could even cause one's body to explode and die. Jiang Tian was only at Foundation Establishment Level 1 now. Even if he had many tricks, it would suppress his cultivation for at least a few months and he would not be able to recover. However, Jiang Tian cherished Yi Tianren too much. He was also moved by his fighting spirit and ambition. Jiang Tian was definitely not a saint. However, he believed that Yi Tianren was the kind of talent who could fight against 10,000 people. If he became his disciple, it would be comparable to 3 Tianqing school. Moreover, he would be able to guard Huaxia for a century and make a great contribution. He had to do it for the sake of friendship and righteousness. Yuli, this deal is worth it. Clang. Jiang Tian's long blade, which was as thin as a cicada's wing, slashed toward the sky. Time reversal blade. The saber light that was as mesmerizing as autumn water flashed past within a radius of a few kilometers. Bang! Wherever the blade light passed, the frozen space and time suddenly rolled back and contracted. It was as if someone had pressed the rewind button in a video. Everyone's body moved in the opposite direction uncontrollably. What's going on? This thought appeared in everyone's mind, but they could not make a sound. Rumble. In the sky, the clouds and flames formed by the explosion of the incarnation sword, the surging qi, blood, and energy all shrank and rolled back. It was as if the fireworks had condensed into a firework tube and turned into Yi Tianren's incarnation sword. It only rewound time and space for a minute and a half. Jiang Tian was so tired that he spat out a mouthful of blood. A few strands of silver appeared in his black hair. Slash again. Jiang Tian took a deep breath and slashed down with his saber again. Rumble. The 100-meter-long sword of incarnation shrank and changed shape again. After a while, it finally transformed into Yi Tianren's original appearance. Seeing Yi Tianren reappear in the sky, everyone was dumbfounded. They couldn't believe it, as if they had seen a ghost. It was not surprising that Jiang Tian could kill Yi Tianren. It was understandable. However, Jiang Tian actually reversed time with a single slash of his saber. How could he still be considered human? This was a true immortal. Pooh! Jiang Tian spat out another mouthful of blood. The space-time reversing saber in his hand shattered into pieces. Jiang Tian's hair had already turned white. Master Kong. With tears in his eyes, Yi Tianren flew in front of Jiang Tian and kowtowed, tears rolling down his cheeks. I'm just an ant and a speck of dust. How can I waste your precious cultivation to save my life? No. You're not an ant. You're a human, a living human who dares to kill a god. Jiang Tian revealed a gratified smile and helped him up. Just as you said, even if you're as small as an ant, you're as magnificent as a god. I'm very happy that Huaxia can produce such a genius like you. Master. I'm willing to take Master Kong as my master and serve you for life. I'll never betray you. Yi Tianren kowtowed and shouted with tears in his eyes. Not only was Jiang Tian 10 times more powerful than him, but his magnanimity was as broad as the sea. He finally understood why Sita Shao, who was his senior, was so loyal to Jiang Tian. Everyone was shocked and couldn't believe it. Oh my god. This was Yi Tianren, the overlord on the Holy Sea Divine Roll 100 years ago and the most powerful person in Huaxia. But now, he was kowtowing to Kang Te Chu and acknowledging him as his master. At this moment, everyone looked at Jiang Tian with eyes full of reverence and shock, as if they were looking at a real god. Such an achievement was unimaginable. In Huaxia, Situ Shao, the most powerful person in Huaxia 200 years ago, the founder of the Hong sect, and Yi Tianren, the most powerful person in Huaxia 100 years ago, the founder of the Long formation, had all acknowledged him as their master. Among the 6 major sects in the world, 5 of them were Kang Te Chu, the Hong sect and the Huaxia Long formation. It could be said that all the talents in the world had fallen into Kang Te Chu's trap. On the international level, the Covenant of Darkness had been defeated by him, the Winter Army and the Hall of Gods had submitted to him, and the United States Universal Shield and Blue Storm had been destroyed by Kang Te Chu. He alone was able to suppress the superpowers of the world. What a glorious achievement, what a glorious battle record, what a peerless talent, and what a domineering aura. Such an achievement was extremely rare even in the Middle Ages, where the stars were shining brightly and cultivation was popular, not to mention in the Age of Doom where technology was flourishing and the immortal realm was hidden. It was as rare as a phoenix's feather. Master, the divine power of cultivation arts, the greatness of his achievements, and the vastness of his vision. You are the most powerful person in history. Situ Shao said with a trembling voice with a face full of fascination. He didn't dare to compare himself to Jiang Tian, but even so, he yearned for it. Zhao Yuankuan, Wei Feilong, and Hu Qingtian all nodded in agreement. They only felt that Jiang Tian's figure at this time was as tall as a mountain, and they could only look up to him. Yes, from now on, I'm afraid that not many people on this planet can challenge Master's dignity. Tang Linglong, on the other hand, straightened her back. Her snow-white face was full of pride, and her eyes were full of arrogance. As long as Jiang Tian and Yi Tianren are fine. Huang Linger, on the other hand, smiled with relief. Among the crowd, the happiest was definitely Yi Zhantian, who was rubbing his hands excitedly. The battle between Jiang Tian and Yi Tianren had always been a big stone in his heart. Today, the battle between the 2 century-level powerhouses had ended in such a way. It was wonderful. Jiang Tian stretched out his hands and helped Yi Tianren up. He smiled and said, "Heavenly man, get up. From now on, you and Situ will be brothers of the same sect. I hope you two can put aside your differences and love each other." He swallowed a few pills, and his body and cultivation started to recover at a speed visible to the naked eye. His white hair turned back to black. Then he said, "From now on, the Hong sect will continue to protect the safety of the overseas Chinese. The Huaxia Long formation will continue to protect Huaxia. The 2 organizations will share information and support each other in action. Together, we will make new contributions to the peace of Huaxia. Master, in fact, the Hong sect has contributed a lot to the liberation of Huaxia." Yi Tianren's face was solemn. He cupped his fists and bowed deeply to Situ Shao. But at that time, the new society was still in its infancy, and the evil martial artists were running amok. The heavenly beings had no choice but to kill more than 100 overlords of the Hong sect. "Please forgive me, Brother Situ." Situ Zhao's face changed a few times, and then he cupped his fist and said lightly, "Forget it. We are all martial artists, so let's not worry about the details. Don't be so fussy. We all worked for different masters. You don't have it easy either." But, his expression turned solemn as he flung his sleeves and placed his hands behind his back. He said in a deep voice filled with arrogance, "In the future, you have to call me senior brother in Tianqing sect. Don't mess up the order." Okay, senior brother Situ, I am Yi Tianren. Nice to meet you." Yi Tianren bowed deeply to Situ Shao. "Oh my god, I didn't know senior brother Situ cared so much about this." Seeing Situ Zhao's solemn face, Hu Qingtian and the others couldn't help but chuckle. The way he flicks his sleeves and places his hands behind his back, he's clearly imitating Shizuan, okay? Tang Linglong held back her laughter and whispered into Huang Linger's ear. "Oh no, our master's posturing is like a virus. It's so contagious." The Yi family of Huaxiaolong formation and the Situ family of the Hong sect had been fighting each other for more than half a century. Today, with Jiang Tian's mediation, they finally made peace. Good, good, good. Yi Tianren is not dead, and he is now Master Kang's disciple. The martial arts world of Huaxia is finally at peace. In the distance, Chao Shixiang's face was filled with joy as he clapped and laughed. Special Envoy Shen also nodded and praised, to be able to make the Yi family and the international Hong sect, who were sworn enemies, become friends and work together. I'm afraid only Master Jiang has such prestige in the world. Amazing. Suddenly, Jiang Tian's cold gaze swept over Zhou Zitao, Wu Yingxiong, and Taoist Master Xuanji. The people of Diansang were frightened, especially Zhou Zitao, whose face was as white as paper. Kang Taichu could even suppress Yi Tianren now. Who in the world could stop him? Zhou Zitao, the feud between me and your Diansang sect started when we fought for the DNYU flower on Mount Everest. Jiang Tian said coldly, but the DNYU flower is an ownerless thing. You want it, and so do I. The disciples of Diansang wanted to kill me. Can't I fight back? Although I, Kang Taichu, have killed many people in my life, I have never killed innocent people. To be fair, after the incident, your Diansang sect repeatedly provoked me. Tell me, don't you deserve to die? We know we are wrong. Master Kang, please be merciful and spare our lives. Zhou Zitao was so scared that he immediately knelt down and said, the disciples of Diansang sect are almost all dead. There are only a few hundred people left. Leave some descendants for the inheritance of Diansang sect. Master Kang, please spare our lives. The other disciples also knelt down and were so scared that they wet their pants as if they had seen a demon. The rest of the martial arts experts were also worried. Zhou Zitao's hair was already white. He was an immortal state expert, but at this time, in front of Jiang Tian, he was like a child who had made a mistake. Diansang's Taoist field is okay, but the martial arts inheritance is too bad. There is no need for you to stay. Jiang Tian waved his hand casually. Clang! A 300-meter-long purple lightning saber swept out. Under the violent electric light, Zhou Zitao did not even have time to scream before he exploded like a firework and turned into ashes. A blazing, dazzling, and beautiful sea of purple lightning enveloped the area. The area where the Diansang sect was located became empty in an instant. Everyone turned into ashes and disappeared completely. The rocks were melted and black smoke billowed out of the ground, leaving a terrible knife scar about a few hundred meters long. Master Kang, Wu Yingxiong knows he is wrong. The Wu family knows it is wrong. Do you still remember that when you rescued Huang Linger, the Wu family also helped? Seeing this, Wu Yingxiong was so scared that his face was as white as paper. He prostrated himself on the ground like a dead dog and regretted it so much that he wanted to slap himself a few times. Chapter 869. Originally, although Wu Yingxiong was not as valued by Jiang Tian as Hu Qingtian and the others, he was still a member of Tianqing school. With the title of Kang Taichu's disciple, he was much stronger than before in the southwest. Even the charming young woman, Hua Wanfang of the sect of Shadow Blight, who had been coveting him for a long time, was married to him. But now, he was courting death. Not only was all his previous efforts wasted, but he was also inviting a terrible disaster. Yes, I remember. But you still have to die. If you betray me once, you can betray me 10,000 times. You can't live. Jiang Tian sneered. With a boom, the purple lightning blade swept out again. The dozens of people of the Wu family were instantly turned into ashes and completely disappeared from this world. Master Kang, please show mercy. All the incomplete maps of the ruins of immortality of the Amei sect of Shu Mountain are here. Taoist Master Xuanji said nothing. Plop. He knelt on the ground and held out 3 incomplete maps of the ruins of immortality with trembling hands. Master Kang, please spare my life. It was that bastard Hao Taichong who acted on his own initiative and wanted to be Master Kang's enemy. We didn't want to. Yeah, we couldn't stop him if he wanted to give us his head. He deserved to be killed by Master Kong. What kind of joke is this? At that time, I wanted to deceive my master and destroy my ancestors. I wanted to kill this old cow nose. And that Song Shuangyan, ugly and weak, insisted on being Master Kang's enemy. I didn't like him since a long time ago. The rest of the disciples also rushed to kowtow and crusade against Hao Taichung and Song Shuangyan. They were afraid that they would be killed by Jiang Tian if they were late. These disciples of the Amei sect had come excitedly, expecting to see Jiang Tian killed by Yi Tianren with one strike. But now, they were all silent and trembling. They were so scared that they pissed their pants. They couldn't be arrogant anymore. They were all transcendent state cultivators and were as lofty as gods in the eyes of ordinary people. But at this moment, he lowered his head deeply and begged for mercy incoherently. His eyes were full of shock, fear, and regret, and he didn't even dare to look at Jiang Tian. Oh. Thanks. Jiang Tian nodded in satisfaction. Smiling faintly, he took the map and tossed it into the sky-devouring demonic gourd. Amei sword sect is willing to pledge allegiance to Master Kong and become Master Kang's sect branch like Wudong. Taoist Master Xuanji relaxed and smiled flatteringly. You've seen how much the children worship Master Kong. I'll definitely be loyal and devoted. Pa! Jiang Tian raised his hand and shot out a beam of finger light. Taoist Xuanji lowered his head to look at the large hole in his chest that was charred and smoking. He looked at Jiang Tian in disbelief and said, Master Kong, how could you go back on your word? When did I say that I wouldn't kill you? No one who offends me, Kong Teichu, can live. Jiang Tian sneered. Bullshit Amei sword sect. You're so weak that you don't even deserve to be dogs. Go to hell. Taoist Master Xuanji's face was filled with unwillingness and despair as he fell to one side. The last scene he saw in his life was the scene of Jiang Tian slapping the remaining several dozen Amei disciples into pieces of flesh and blood. The Amei sword sect, the best sword sect in the world in terms of offense and a 1,000-year-old Taoist sect, was destroyed by Jiang Tian. Some of the others were just there to watch the battle and didn't have any conflicts with Jiang Tian. But at this moment, all of them were terrified out of their wits by Jiang Tian's monstrous killing intent, and they felt uneasy. All of them knelt on the ground and were terrified to the point of shivering. The current Kong Teichu was truly invincible in Huaxia, invincible in the world, like a god. He could kill a few people as easily as crushing a few ants. None of the people present could withstand his thunderous fury. Get up. You have no quarrel with me, so I won't kill you. Jiang Tian said calmly. Everyone felt relieved, as if they had been pardoned. But then they heard Jiang Tian say calmly, but if anyone dares to talk behind my back in the future, I won't spare you. Why are you so talkative? Yes, we won't dare to do it again. Everyone kowtowed like they were pounding garlic. Jiang Tian lifted his foot and left. Yi Tianren hurriedly chased after him and asked, Master, where are you going? I have something important to report. This, Jiang Tian said telepathically, then rose into the air and flew toward the venue of the live broadcast. Looking at Jiang Tian's back, Yi Tianren sighed with envy. Sigh, Master Kang's cultivation is so powerful, but I didn't expect him to have such a rich life in his spare time. I can't compare to him, I can't compare to him. After Jiang Tian left, someone suddenly remembered. Right, where's Kai Shaochen? Didn't Master Kong kill him? Everyone looked around and found Kai Shaochen lying on the ground, vomiting green bile. His eyes were white, and his body was twitching. He had fainted from fright. Next to him, a few disciples were guarding him. They looked miserable and trembling. It took Jiang Tian only 1.5 hours to leave the venue of the live broadcast, defeat Yi Tianren, kill all the martial arts sects and families, and return to the venue of the live broadcast. At this time, the venue of the live broadcast was still very lively. All the live broadcast celebrities were showing off their unique skills, encouraging fans to give gifts. The rich people were also frantically giving gifts to show off their wealth. There was even a female glutton who was crazily eating all kinds of cold seafood. She had already eaten 10 kilograms. This amazing talent also attracted a lot of fans. Now, Cutie Lee had firmly occupied the first place of the live broadcast that night. Other online celebrities couldn't catch up at all. For example, Zhao Qianru's live broadcast room was now ranked outside the top 20. Except for Jiang Tian's 10 million gift, the rest of the fans' gifts added up to less than 50,000 yuan. And Fatty Lee firmly occupied the first place of the fan list. After all, he had given more than 100 million yuan. The other fans, no matter how crazy they were, could only give a gift of 100,000 yuan or 80,000 yuan at most. In fact, even if they gave a gift of 100,000 yuan or 80,000 yuan, most of them were online celebrities, not pure fans. They looked at Fatty Lee with envy and jealousy and sighed helplessly. Even if you have money, you shouldn't play like this. You don't treat money as money at all. As expected of a family with a mine. They couldn't afford to offend him. This time, Cutie Lee's live broadcast ceremony's strongest online celebrity trophy was inevitable. Money is like paper to me. It's just a concept of numbers. I don't lack money. Fatty Lee was also very proud. He started the live broadcast and interacted with the fans. From time to time, he would connect with Cutie Lee. "Io, little white dragon in the waves is back. How dare he come back? Didn't he just say that he didn't have money and didn't dare to compete, so he made a phone call to escape? Could it be that he went out to borrow money? Borrowing money to give gifts, is he a fool? There are a lot of such fools." Some time ago, there was a fan who was in charge of finance. Didn't he embezzle public funds to give gifts to the live broadcast? He was even arrested. When Jiang Tian walked into the venue again, some people noticed him and exclaimed. After all, Jiang Tian was also the second place on the fan list. As soon as he entered, he immediately attracted a lot of attention. "Ha, he still dares to come." Fatty Lee was bragging with other fans in Cutie Lee's live broadcast room. Suddenly, he saw Jiang Tian coming. He immediately smiled contemptuously and shouted to the fans, "Brothers, today I met a pretentious person called Little White Dragon in the Waves. He wants to compete with me for the first place on the platform's fan list. Watch me squeeze him. Hey, today I'm going to let everyone see what it means to be rich and willful. What it means to be rich and do whatever you want." Jiang Tian was talking to Zhao Xueqing about the battle with Yi Tianren just now. Qing'er listened and nodded with relief. "This is very good. Yi Tianren is a promising talent. His future is limitless. If he is trained well, I am afraid it is comparable to 3 Tianqing School." Later, she looked at the silver frost on Jiang Tian's temples and said worriedly, "It's just that you used the reversal of time and space blade. Is your cultivation okay? It's not a big deal. My cultivation is still in the foundation establishment stage. I only need to rest for about 10 days to fully recover my cultivation." Jiang Tian said. "That's good. I knew it. My husband is the most invincible." Zhao Xueqing kissed Jiang Tian on the cheek. Suddenly, an untimely voice rang out. "Little white dragon in the waves, you think you are invincible? Keep bragging. You were suppressed by me just now, so you escaped through the phone. Our bet is not over yet. Come on, let's continue." Li Baiwan challenges Little White Dragon in the Waves. In the Watch Me live broadcast platform, the two biggest local tyrants in history are fighting. Who will win and who will lose? For a time, the internet celebrities and local tyrants present all came to watch and pointed the live broadcast camera at the two of them to commentate. There was a reason for this. Anyway, Cutie Lee had firmly occupied the first place, and there was no hope for everyone to turn the tables. The reward competition between Li Baiwan and Little White Dragon in the Waves was very topical. The effect was better than the effect of his own live broadcast. It was better to let the fans watch this. With so many cameras pointing at him, Jiang Tian was also a little disgusted. He immediately ran his cultivation method to cover his face with a layer of faint white true essence. You have no money, right? You can't play anymore, right? If you have no money, immediately admit defeat to your brother. Seeing that Jiang Tian didn't speak, Fatty Li smiled proudly. Hee, fighting with Li Baiwan, he really thinks that he has too much money. That's right. His family has a mine, does he? This is called not knowing the immensity of heaven and earth. He has to fight with the local tyrant. Now he can't back down. That's right, Fatty Li is really rich. One reward of 100 million real gold and silver without even blinking his eyes. Not only Fatty Li, but everyone was full of contempt and ridicule, thinking that Jiang Tian had no money and didn't dare to play with Fatty Li. If he could really play, who would use the phone to escape? With so many people watching, it would be so embarrassing. Cutie Li also said with a hoarse voice, with a mocking face, that's right, rich people don't watch the live broadcast of heroic deeds. A dead hero can't dance. It's not cute at all. She continued to incite the fans to give rewards, waving her pink fists, singing and shouting, "Get up, brothers who don't want to be slaves. Continue to give rewards. Step on little white dragon, little Ruru, into the dust for me. Step on those dead bears to hell for me." What bullshit heroes. Fatty Li, are you so poor? 100 million, is it a lot of money? Suddenly, in the midst of many mocking words, Jiang Tian spoke faintly, his face full of contempt. Chapter 870. Damn, little white dragon, in terms of acting tough, I only admire you in all of Huaxia. Fatty Li was slightly stunned, then full of ridicule, and said in a strange tone, 100 million is not a lot, why don't you give me a reward? If you can give another 5 million, you can be considered a rich man. Ha, brothers, look, there is a pretentious criminal here, bragging again. Bragging that he is rich, bragging that he is the richest man in the world. Cutie Li also reached out to the fans and winked. It was ugly and monotonous, but there were fans who bought it. Is 100 million a lot of money? Little White Dragon's words are really domineering, it is almost the same as a small goal of 100 million. Poverty has limited my imagination. You can do whatever you want if you have money. Online and offline internet celebrities and nouveau riche fans were also in their own rooms, mocking Jiang Tian and crazily spamming. The first bragging king of tonight's live broadcast ceremony is born. This laurel is awarded to Mr. Little White Dragon. For a time, many fans of Cutie Li also humiliated and ridiculed Jiang Tian. The entire platform's rooms were crazily spamming, and it could even be said that the screen was about to explode. Little White Dragon has spent 10 million gifts, I am afraid it is possible to spend tens of millions more. There were also sober fans who made different voices, but they were immediately drowned out by other fans. That can't be compared with Li Baiwan, he is a real nouveau riche. Titanium alloy nouveau riche. His family has a mine. Most of the internet celebrity fans thought so. Okay, I will give you a reward. 1 billion. Jiang Tian whispered and took out his mobile phone. Hearing this, everyone was shocked. They stared fixedly at Jiang Tian, unable to take their eyes off him. He really wants to compete. Jiang Tian pressed the phone a few times, but it did not turn on. He frowned and said, the phone is broken, it was burned by Yi Tianren's thunder technique. Chinger, lend me your phone. Bah! Just now the phone escaped, and now the phone is burned. Escape, Little White Dragon, your escape technique is the best in the world. You know how to play. City people really know how to play. This is too deep. Everyone complained and looked at Jiang Tian with disdain. Whether it was the people online or in the venue, they all thought of Jiang Tian as a clown, an existence that was puffing himself up at his own cost. What kind of status do you have? What's the point of being angry with them? Zhao Xueqing looked at Jiang Tian lovingly. She didn't know whether to laugh or cry, but she still handed the phone over to Jiang Tian. In any case, the gifts, the platform, and the internet celebrity are all ours. Put them in your left pocket and put them in your right. Jiang Tian smiled faintly. He logged into the live broadcast room with Qing'er's mobile phone and quickly bid for the gift on the platform. Some of the gifts started at tens of thousands of yuan. However, Jiang Tian directly ordered a few gifts and bought them for 1 billion yuan. A total of 1 billion was thrown out in one go. He's really giving me a reward. Is it a few hundred or 1,000? Cutie Lee's face was full of mockery. She looked at the platform's fan ranking with contempt. Then, as if her chrysanthemum had been burst, she exclaimed in shock, 1 billion. Boom! The screen of Zhao Qianru's live broadcast room was about to explode. Even the entire internet was about to explode the moment Jiang Tian's reward landed. Weibo's trending searches, portal websites, and friend circles were all reposting the news. Countless people flocked to the Watch Me platform and registered as new users. They entered Zhao Qianru's live broadcast room to enjoy the feast of wealth. Cute Lee and Fatty Lee were dumbfounded. For the first time, they saw what it meant to be able to do whatever you want with money. Congratulations, little Ruru. You've received a gift of 1 billion yuan. The total amount of gifts is. Become the platform's #1 internet celebrity. The female host's voice was trembling, but her eyes were full of excitement and ecstasy. The more gifts there were, the more the platform's commission would be. The staff's bonus for this event would also be more generous. The effect of today's event was far beyond expectations. Now, the number of people online Watch Meet had exceeded 100 million. It broke the historical record in one night. The server was about to crash. The technical staff quickly added a temporary server. You're crazy. Fatty Lee's fat face twitched a few times as he looked at Jiang Tian in disbelief. Jiang Tian had just thrown in 1 billion yuan of real money. Even if he had money, he wouldn't dare to play like this. All the internet celebrities and local tycoon fans in the audience were dumbfounded. 1 billion yuan. It was equivalent to a year's profit of a medium-sized listed company. Even if you have money, it didn't come from the wind. How can you be so prodigal and play like this? Li Baiwan, just a small goal of 1 billion yuan has scared you to this extent. Jiang Tian said with a playful face, aren't you very rich? Don't you have a mine at home? Aren't you not short of money? Continue to send gifts. If you don't dare to follow, that's fine too. Just admit defeat and call me grandpa. Who said I can't follow? Fatty Lee was furious. He picked up his mobile phone and made a call. He quickly gathered 3 billion yuan. In fact, his real assets were only 300 or 400 million yuan, but he still had connections. Moreover, he just said hello to Zhang Huchen. He wanted to reward 3 billion yuan, but the platform could only take a fixed cut of 500 million yuan. As for Cutie Lee, according to their private agreement, she would return all the rewards she received to him. Therefore, he had only spent 500 million yuan. Therefore, he could still afford to play. Snap! His hands trembled as he operated his mobile phone and quickly sent a gift of 3 billion yuan to Cutie Lee. Congratulations to Cutie Lee for getting a gift of 3 billion yuan, surpassing Xiao Ruru, and once again becoming the #1 internet celebrity. On the stage, the female host was radiant. She came to the stage again and shouted excitedly in the exciting music. How about it? I gave you 3 billion yuan as a gift. If you have the guts, take it out. If you can't take it out, then obediently call me grandpa. Fatty Lee was also complacent and shouted arrogantly. The rapid secretion of dopamine in his body made his fat body tremble. His fat face was distorted for a while. Oh. Okay. Fatty Lee, today I will let you see what it means to not be short of money. Jiang Tian laughed, and without saying a word, he spent 10 billion yuan to buy a gift and send it to Zhao Qianru again. Anyway, She was his sister-in-law. He originally wanted to support her positive energy live broadcast career and send a few billion yuan. Jiang Tian didn't care at all. Dead silence. The audience was dead silent. Even the female host was stunned. Everyone stood there in a daze, forgetting to announce the amount of rewards and the change of ranking on the stage. 10 billion yuan as a gift. This is simply not treating money as money. Poverty has limited my imagination. Being rich is really too willful. You really dare to do whatever you want. Are you still playing? Go on. Go on. Jiang Tian looked at the ashen-faced Fatty Li with a smile and teased, if you give another 1 million yuan, I will consider it as your win. I heard that your family owns a mine. Don't tell me you can't even take out 1 million yuan. 10 billion. Fatty Li was so shocked that his whole body trembled. His face was as pale as paper. He was so embarrassed by Jiang Tian, but he didn't dare to say a word. Brotherly, you continue to give rewards. I still want to fight for first place. Cutie Li rubbed her flat chest against Fatty Li's arm and shouted discontentedly. I'll give you ass. Fatty Li gritted his teeth and wanted to give her a slap in the face. Just now, he was put on the spot by Jiang Tian. His blood was stimulated, so he fought with Jiang Tian. But now that he came back to his senses, he realized that the amount of rewards he gave had far exceeded all his assets. Even if Cutie Li gave him the money she got, even if the platform only took 500 million yuan, it wouldn't be enough to fill the hole. In other words, if those creditors asked him to pay back the money, he would immediately go bankrupt. He still wanted to play and continue to give rewards. Only a fool would play. Fatty Li, you don't want to play anymore? Jiang Tian said faintly, then kneel down and kowtow and call me grandpa. Our bet can't go back on it. You're going too far. Who do you think you are? How dare you? Fatty Li was furious and pointed at Jiang Tian. Slap. Jiang Tian didn't say anything and directly slapped Fatty Li's face. So what if I bully you? Jiang Tian smiled and said, didn't you say that whoever retracts first is the grandson? Why don't you admit it now? You dare to hit me. Fatty Li was beaten until he staggered back. He stared at Jiang Tian in shock and anger. Didn't you just show off that you have money? Didn't you say that your family has a mine? You don't even have 10 billion yuan, and you still come out to show off. Jiang Tian said with a face full of ridicule. Hearing Jiang Tian's words, everyone was dumbfounded for a while. Buddy, you don't treat money as money. 10 billion yuan wasn't a small number. Looking at Hua Xia, how many people had so much money? Are you going to call me grandpa or not? Jiang Tian's eyes suddenly became as cold as a knife. I'm calling. Coming into contact with Jiang Tian's sharp gaze, Fatty Li was actually so scared that his entire body trembled. Why is his eyes so scary? He looks even scarier than those top gangsters who suppressed Jin province. Young Master Huchen is here. President Zhang Yilin is here too. But at this moment, there was an exclamation. Everyone looked at the entrance of the venue with shock in their eyes. They saw Zhang Huchen, Jiang Bangxia, Zhang Yilin, and several other people in charge of the event, dressed in splendid clothes and holding red wine in their hands, came out together. As the executives of the platform and the host of the event, they wanted to toast and thank the internet celebrities who worked hard for the platform for a year and earned a lot of money for the platform. Ha, little white dragon, I'll let you be arrogant. If you have the guts, continue to be arrogant. Fatty Li, who was about to kneel down in humiliation, was suddenly revived. He pointed at Jiang Tian's nose and laughed. Do you know who Wan Wan is that you just hit? That's young Master Zhang's girlfriend. Boy, you'll be skinned alive by him. Moreover, I'm very familiar with young Master Huchen. I'm his loyal follower. I can ask him to abolish Xiao Ruru's ranking. Your money is completely wasted, believe it or not. I even just got a discount from the platform. All the reward platforms only took 500 million yuan. He looked at Jiang Tian with contempt, as if he was looking at a fool, and mocked him triumphantly, and your 10 billion yuan is real money. But it's all in vain. After all, the gifts you sent were all bought at a premium. In fact, the real value is only a few million yuan. May I ask, little white dragon, do you feel sorry for it? Frown. Hey, are you going to cry? Ha ha ha, let me see you cry. Chapter 871. As soon as these words came out, everyone came to a realization and looked at Jiang Tian as if they were looking at a fool. This person was an idiot. That's right, Jiang Tian won this battle of the rich, but what was the point? He spent more than 10 billion to buy the #1 fan of the live broadcast platform. But could that be spent as money? It was not worth a single cent. What about Fatty Lee? He had long been familiar with the platform's executives. He only spent 500 million to push Cutie Lee to the #1 online celebrity. This created commercial value. Cutie Lee could be a game ambassador in the future, earn money from live broadcasts, or directly enter the entertainment industry to act or participate in variety shows. She could make money. She might be able to earn back 500 million by several times. And you? You got nothing. You spent 10 billion for nothing. That cute girl also looked down on them as if they were ants. She sneered and mocked them. That's right, little Roo. Little white dragon is rich, but you have nothing to do with it. Our connections are something you can't compare to. Do you think this is a fair ranking competition? Wrong. This ranking competition depends on connections. Not only do we have money, but we also have connections. That's why we can do whatever we want. So, from the beginning, you're bound to lose. Is that so? Jiang Tian smiled faintly and said disdainfully, is Zhang Huchen your backing? Ask him to come over and kowtow to me. This person is really crazy. How dare you be disrespectful to Zhang Huchen? Cutie Lee and many other online celebrities looked at Jiang Tian as if they were looking at a fool. They couldn't believe it. So what if you're rich? Zhang Huchen was the direct descendant of Yanjing's Zhang family. This was not as simple as being rich. In Huaxia, since ancient times, the people had not fought with the officials. The other party's authority was monstrous. Just a stretch of a finger could crush you into smithereens. Tisk, reckless thing. Just you wait. Fatty Lee stretched out his fat finger and pointed at Jiang Tian. Then, like a loyal dog that saw its master, he swaggered to Zhang Huchen and bowed, young Master Zhang, I was just beaten up by someone in your territory. Who did it? You're the one who beat up that bastard Wan. You have to back me up. Motherfucker, let's see who dares to pick a fight with me. I'll skin him alive. Zhang Huchen was also angry after hearing Wan's explanation. Now that he heard these words, how could he hold himself back? His eyes turned cold and he cursed. With Jiang Tian's support, the Zhang family was no longer the same as before. Just yesterday, Mo Yuza, one of the top princes in Yanjin, asked him to go on a yacht ride. No one in Huaxia would dare to provoke him. He took large strides and charged towards Jiang Tian aggressively. Damn, young Master Huchen is indeed young Master Huchen. That was how ferocious he was. Kill all who stand in our way. Fatty Lee, Kuei Lee, Wan, and other internet celebrities all looked at Zhang Huchen with admiration, as if they had seen their idol. The lights in the venue were colorful, blurring the vision. When Zhang Huchen got closer, he finally saw Jiang Tian's face. His body suddenly stiffened and he stood there dumbfounded. Cold sweat ran down his back like a stream. Young Master Huchen, he's the one who beat me up. Hurry up and teach him a lesson. Wan grabbed Zhang Huchen's arm, pointed at Jiang Tian and roared angrily with a face full of shame. Yeah, he was just scolding you. He told you to kneel down and kowtow. I say, don't let him live. Just chop him up. Cutie Lee chimed in, fanning the flames. Wan Wan looked at Jiang Tian in disdain and said, "Little white dragon, are you scared now? Kneel down and beg for mercy." "Damn it, you're trying to get me killed." Zhang Huchen wanted to cry. "Shut up." He turned around and slapped Wan Wan's face, then slapped Kueli's face. Smack! Smack! Two crisp sounds shocked the whole audience. A few of Wan Wan's teeth flew out, and half of her face suddenly swelled like a pig's head. Kueli's nose was bleeding, and she was seeing stars. She sat on the ground in a daze. Fatty Li's smile was also stiff on his face. He couldn't believe it. "Young Master Huchen, what's going on?" Then, under everyone's incredulous gaze, Zhang Huchen flopped down on the ground. He knelt on the ground, trembling all over, and said with tears in his eyes, "Grand Master Jiang, it's all my fault, please punish me, this." Why are you kneeling down?" Fatty Li, Wan Wan, Kueli, and many other internet celebrities and local tycoons stood there dumbfounded. They couldn't believe it. This was Zhang Huchen they were talking about. In their hearts, he was a godlike figure. But at this moment, he actually knelt down and kowtowed to this unknown kid. What was going on? "Zhang Huchen, you're really something. Little internet celebrity, you're quite good." Jiang Tian sipped the red wine slowly and said with a cold smile, "It's just that the taste is a bit heavy." "It's so ugly, and you're still playing." "Master Kong, I know I'm wrong. I won't dare to do it again." Zhang Huchen was scared out of his wits. He knew Jiang Tian's temperament very well. He was decisive and ruthless. Jiang Tian and the Zhang family had a thin relationship. If he wanted to kill him, it would be just a matter of a word. It seemed that Zhang Huchen was very afraid of this little white dragon. What was his background? Just when everyone was shocked and puzzled, Chairman, Jiang Bangxia and Zhang Yilin walked up to Jiang Tian with a face full of shame and bowed deeply. "What? Chairman?" Everyone was stunned, as if they had been struck by lightning. They stood there motionless, and their faces were full of disbelief. Zhang Yilin's eyes were red. She said with shame, "I didn't expect there to be so much chaos in the live broadcast. I will deal with it seriously and strengthen the management." She had just briefly understood the situation and knew that in a sense, tonight's event had been messed up. The traffic had indeed increased a lot, but Cutie Lee and the other streamers were slandering heroes, singing revolutionary songs, manipulating the rankings, and engaging in personal attacks. Maybe if Jiang Tian was unhappy, he would directly shut down this app. Look at Me app, now valued at $10 billion, must be very valuable in the eyes of ordinary people. But Jiang Tian's assets were now in the trillions of US dollars. To him, it was just a drop in the ocean. If he said he would shut it down, it would be shut down. Most importantly, she was worried that Jiang Tian would be disappointed. Disappointed in her. When Jiang Tian first created this live broadcast app, it was for the live broadcast of the Immortal Healing Village. He hoped that she could spread Chinese medicine and other excellent national culture. Jiang Tian was busy cultivating and conquering the world. He was very busy and rarely saw her. In the few meetings he had with her that he could count on his fingers and still remembered clearly, Jiang Tian earnestly told her that the Look at Me live broadcast should focus on social benefits first and economic benefits second. The main purpose should be to promote social justice and spread positive energy. Don't do those dirty things. But now, Chairman Zhang, brother-in-law, is the chairman of the Look at Me platform? And Jones Jewelry? Zhao Qianru asked in disbelief. That's right. Zhang Yilin smiled bitterly. Her beautiful eyes looked around at the crowd and introduced, Mr. Jiang is the real boss of the Look at Me live broadcast platform. We are just working for Mr. Jiang. In addition, Mr. Jiang is also the actual controller of the sponsors of this event, Anna Lin, Jones Jewelry, and Podle Winery. Thump. Fatty Li, Wan Wan, Ali, and several others who were against Jiang Tian were so scared that their hearts thumped and their souls almost left their bodies. They knew that they had offended a real god today. I've been played to death. He really knows how to play. Especially Fatty Lee, who suddenly understood at this time. He wanted to cry but had no tears. He and Jiang Tian competed to buy gifts. Although he went bankrupt, Jiang Tian also spent real money, and it was more than 10 billion. He still felt a little comforted in his heart. After all, Jiang Tian's money was like throwing meat buns at a dog. It was gone forever. But he never expected. Jiang Tian was not only the boss of the Look at Me platform, but also the boss of the sponsors. He was also the brother-in-law of the female streamer, Xiao Ruru. This was equivalent to buying gifts and giving them to himself. He didn't spend a single cent. But what about himself? He was really bankrupt. Zhang Yilin, it seems that you understand the situation. Jiang Tian shook the red wine glass, took a sip, and said lightly, do you know how to deal with it? Ali, Wan, you slandered heroes, smoked, and scolded people in the live broadcast. Your words and actions were inappropriate and violated the contract signed with the platform. Zhang Yilin turned around and said coldly, our company will terminate the contract with the two of you now and will file a legal lawsuit. Each of you will face a compensation of 500 million for breaching the contract. President Zhang, you can't. I don't have that kind of money. 500 million, even if you sell me, it's not worth it. At this time, Ali could no longer be arrogant. Her legs were weak and she sat on the ground. Tears rolled down her cheeks. Her fake eyelashes were washed away by the tears, leaving black marks on her face. It was extremely ugly. 500 million. How much money did she have? This was undoubtedly an astronomical figure for her. She couldn't afford it in her lifetime. Huchen, help me. I can't afford it. Wan's tears were also flowing. She cried until she was out of breath and pulled Zhang Huchen to beg. Help you? How can I help you? Zhang Huchen kicked her in the stomach, causing her to spit out her dinner. Zhang Huchen turned ruthless. Are you blind? You even dared to scold the company's chairman. Who can save you? Help Wan. Then he must be tired of living. Jiang Tian could kill Zhang Huchen if he was unhappy. Besides, in Zhang Huchen's opinion, Jiang Tian was already very kind to not kill Wan and the rest. What kind of people had Jiang Tian not killed? In the UK, even Buckingham Palace was flattened by Jiang Tian. In the US, even little Morgan was killed by him with a snap of his fingers. How many heads do you have for Jiang Tian to chop off? Zhang Huchen was also very angry with Wan and the rest at this moment. How could you be so blind to provoke Jiang Tian and call me over? You're sending me to my death. Chapter 872. Suddenly, Cutie Lee, who was in despair, wiped her tears and begged, President Zhang, Fatty Lee gave me a gift of 3 billion yuan tonight, and my commission is also 5 billion yuan. I'll compensate the company with this money, okay? Zhang Yilin was non-committal. Yang Xueli, we agreed before. You have to give me the money. Besides, the platform only takes 500 million yuan. Fatty Lee was like a tomcat whose tail had been cut off. He suddenly opened his eyes wide and screamed loudly. Where's the contract? Where's the witness? Who can prove it? Whether the platform takes 500 million or 5 billion yuan, the rest of the reward is mine. Yang Xueli turned hostile and said fiercely. You bitch, give me back my money. Fatty Lee suddenly grabbed Yang Xueli's hair and beat her up. He hit her 3 times on the bridge of her nose. Fuck you. Didn't you sleep with me before? Yang Xueli scolded. After all, she was also a delinquent girl. She was a good girl who was good at smoking, drinking, perming her hair, abortion, bars, and gang fights. She immediately fought back bravely and hit Fatty Lee's crotch 3 times. I only slept with you a few times, and it's worth hundreds of millions of yuan. Are you diamond-studded? Fatty Lee screamed with tears. The two people suddenly wrestled and scratched each other. They went back and forth, panting for breath, spewing out profanities, jabbing at each other and cursing each other. It was extremely vulgar and ugly. Seeing Jiang Tian frowning in displeasure, Zhang Huchen was so scared that his whole body trembled. He strode forward and gave each of them a big slap. He angrily shouted, "If you want to fight, do it outside. Don't disturb the event here. Please get out immediately." Several tall and burly security guards quickly came forward and carried the two of them out of the venue. Wan Wan was also driven out like a stray dog. "Young Master Huchen, you promised me that the platform will only take 500 million yuan. You must help me. I owe 3 billion yuan outside, and I'm bankrupt." Fatty Lee, like a fat penguin, kicked his round legs and shouted with tears on his face. "What are you talking about? Why would I do something like this? When did I promise you anything? The platform's won. 5 billion commission, don't even think about taking a single cent less." Zhang Huchen was shocked again. He shouted angrily and winked at the security guards. The security guards with penetrating eyebrows punched Fatty Lee's stomach several times, which made him spit out the red wine he had just drunk. He couldn't scream and quickly carried the two people out. After Fatty Lee and the other two were cleared out, the whole place was dead silent. Everyone was stupefied. They didn't dare believe what they were seeing. They didn't think that the battle of wealth would end like this. Although after this storm, the venue was a little chaotic, and everyone was on tenterhooks. However, the glib-tongued host immediately stepped onto the stage to warm up the atmosphere. There were a few more exciting programs, which quickly diluted the panic and chaos in the venue. "Listen up, all of you. Building bridges and paving roads without corpses. Killing and arson is a golden belt. This world shouldn't be like this." In the noisy music, Jiang Tian beckoned Zhang Yilin, Jiang Bangxia, and the others to come over. He said seriously, "The whole world knows about the family affairs of the actress, and no one asks about the general's lonely grave. This world shouldn't be like this. I'm too lazy to say anything more to you. I just hope that before you do anything, you will ask your conscience more and do more good deeds. Brother Tian, we understand. It will never be like this in the future." Zhang Yilin, Jiang Bangxia, and Zhang Huchen were all ashamed and nodded anxiously. After watching the program for a while, Qing'e yawned and said that she was a little tired. Jiang Tian didn't intend to stay any longer. He let Zhao Qianru wait here alone to receive the award, and helped Zhao Xueqing back first. In the end, the female host announced the Watch Me live app, the strongest internet celebrity of the year, Little Ruru. In the applause, Zhao Qianru happily went to the stage to receive the trophy and bonus, and gave a speech. She thanked the fans for their support and called on everyone to pay more attention to the heroes, widows and vulnerable groups. During the executive speech, Zhang Yilin, the president of the Watch Me live app, looked solemn and apologized to the public for the inappropriate behavior of the internet celebrities under her company. She also expressed, in the future, she would strengthen the supervision of internet celebrities, actively carry out self-examination and self-correction, and vigorously promote positive internet celebrities and so on. For Jiang Tian, the live broadcast ceremony was just a small episode, and he didn't care at all. The battle between Yi Tianren and Jiang Tian at the View Lake Villa was not small. But Chao Shixiang had already asked the police to release the news that the anti-terrorist military exercise in that area was going to be carried out. Although the earth-shattering explosion caused a lot of speculation, this matter was finally fooled. 3 days later, Jiang Tian and Qing'e went to attend Shen Lu and Zhengli's wedding, which could be considered as fulfilling one of their wishes. Jiang Tian first drove to Shen Lu and Zhengli's new house with Qing'e. It was a seaside villa, facing Hong Kong across the sea, and the environment was beautiful. "Master Kong, Mrs. Jiang, I didn't expect you to come in person. You really bring light to my humble home. You really make this old man feel uneasy and very touched. Zheng Jiushuan, who was wearing a red cotton robe, came out to greet them with the help of Zheng Li and Shenlu, and surrounded by the parents of the two families. He was so excited that tears streamed down his face. As one of the first people to know Jiang Tian, he at least knew about Jiang Tian's influence in the secular world. Sidoni's master, in terms of worldly wealth, was probably the richest in the world, and in terms of power, he was an existence that could talk to the bigwigs in Huaxia on an equal footing. Although he only knew bits and pieces of Jiang Tian, it was enough to make him admire Jiang Tian very much. In fact, the Zheng family was now very marginalized in Jiang Tian's camp. They were basically limited to the Lingnan area, and were far inferior to Yigufeng and the other families in Lingnan. Yigufeng now at least controlled Sidoni's maritime transportation industry and became a shipping tycoon. The several big families in Yangcheng also blossomed in the fields of infrastructure and military industry. They had become prominent companies in the world. But Zheng Jiushuan didn't complain. Jiang Tian's arrangements had deep meaning, and he was very satisfied with the current situation. He didn't even think that Jiang Tian would come to Shen Li's wedding. He didn't even let Shenlu inform Jiang Tian before. Because Jiang Tian and Shenlu had only been colleagues for a few days. But he didn't know. In his previous life, Shenlu was an extremely important person to Jiang Tian. He was a good brother who was willing to sacrifice his life for Jiang Tian. He should come. Old Zheng, take care of yourself. Jiang Tian shook hands with Zheng Jiushuan and asked about his well-being. After a few years, Zheng Jiushuan had aged rapidly and had many chronic diseases. He probably wouldn't last another 5 years. But Jiang Tian didn't want to save him. Everyone had their own fate. Dying of old age was also a good ending. This was the law of nature. Thanks to Master Kong, this old man can still live for a few more years. Zheng Jiushuan grabbed Jiang Tian's hand tightly and shook it with all his might. He was so excited that his whole body was trembling. Jiang Tian looked at Shenlu behind Zheng Jiushuan and laughed mockingly. Shenlu, you've put on weight. You've become a ball. Shenlu was originally tall and thin, but now he had become a ball. He was estimated to be 200 pounds. Ha, I can only say that my life is too blissful. Shenlu scratched his head embarrassedly and laughed. But you're getting more and more handsome. With this temperament, you can even act in a movie. But in the next moment, his poisonous tongue erupted. He blinked his eyes and laughed evilly. You went to South Korea for plastic surgery, right? You're old now, so it's easy for you to collapse. It's like a car accident. Zheng Jiushuan was anxious. He stomped his foot and scolded, Shenlu, you're crazy. Don't be disrespectful to Master Kong. Master Kong is now the ruler of a country and the head of a sect. If you ridicule him like this, oh God, if he gets angry, will our Shen family still have a way out? Damn it, Shenlu, that mouth of yours is just asking for trouble. You should go to Diyun Society. Elder Zheng, it's just a joke. It's fine. Jiang Tian laughed heartily. He didn't think much of it. In his previous life, Shenlu didn't hesitate to die to protect him and Qing'er. That was a great kindness. So what if he made a few harmless jokes? Jiang Tian wasn't willing to turn himself into an emotionless stone. Zheng Li looked carefully at Zhao Xueqing's stomach and laughed. Is Madame Jiang pregnant? Yes. It's almost 4 months. Zhao Xueqing held on to Jiang Tian's arm and nodded happily. That's great. Jiang Tian. Congratulations, you're going to be a father. Zheng Li went to the other side to support Zhao Xueqing and smiled. Let's rest in the living room first. Madame Jiang can't catch a cold now. Zheng Jiushuan hurriedly greeted them enthusiastically. Shenlu, I also want to congratulate you. You didn't hesitate to sell your beauty and finally got your wish of hooking up with a rich woman. You're going to be a father. Jiang Tian teased as they sat down in the living room. Jiang Tian's face revealed a gratified expression. In the depths of his eyes, there were some vicissitudes and sighs. Shenlu and Zhengli got married with a child. Now, Zhengli was also 2 months pregnant. In his previous life, Shenli's life was a failure. Because he protected Zhao Xueqing, he was crippled by Lu Wangfeng and lost his job. He was bullied and trampled on like a stray dog. In the end, he was cruelly abandoned by his girlfriend, Li Danny. After Jiang Tian committed suicide by jumping off a cliff, Shenlu lived a life of poverty and loneliness. In his previous life, after Jiang Tian ascended to the God realm, he broke through the void and returned to Linzhou. He wanted to find Shenli's son to repay his kindness, but he couldn't find him. He only heard from the descendants of Shenli's friends that Shenlu died in his 40s because of illness. He never married and didn't even leave behind a descendant. Moreover, when Shenlu died, there was no one by his side. When his body was found, it was already a few days after his death. Now, Jiang Tian was reborn and changed Shenli's fate. He had a great harvest in both his career and love. Everything was perfect. Jiang Tian felt very comfortable and relaxed. It was as if a huge rock had been lifted. Zhengli brought wedding candies for Jiang Tian and his wife. Shenlu picked up the teapot and poured tea for Jiang Tian. He smiled and said, "I rely on my ability to live off a woman." "What can you do?" "I'm forcing myself to live off a woman. I'm convinced. I can't afford to offend you." Jiang Tian laughed heartily, like the boy next door, revealing a bright smile that he hadn't seen for a long time. Chapter 873. Speak seriously. Zheng Jiushuan almost fainted from being angered by Shenlu, his nephew's son-in-law. He used his walking stick to support himself on the marble floor. In front of Grandmaster Jiang, "Can't you be more serious?" After that, they chatted for a while and talked about their daily lives. With Jiang Tian's help, Shenlu had been Zheng Jiushuan's supplier after getting Lin Zhou's earthwork business. He gradually expanded into the construction field. After accumulating funds, he began to participate in project investment and development. During this process, Shenlu and Zhengli also had feelings for each other. They hooked up and lived together shamelessly. When Jiang Tian returned, Zhengli was the Guangxia Group's Deputy Minister of Human Resources. In these few years, she quickly realized the leap from minister to project director, vice president, president, and board member. She almost took a step forward in a year. Moreover, both of them got Guangxia Group's shares, which added up to 7 or 8%. In fact, Zhengli was only Zheng Jiushuan's niece and was not considered a direct descendant. Zheng Jiushuan's arrangement was all for Jiang Tian's face. Guangxia Group wanted to develop in the provincial capital, Yangcheng, and the southern part of Pearl River. The Tang and Tai families there were all Jiang Tian's underlings. Zhengli was Jiang Tian's university classmate and Shenlu was Jiang Tian's former colleague. These 2 points were enough to make these big families be courteous and take care of them. And the facts also proved that Zheng Jiushuan's idea was wise. Guangxia Group's development in these few years was also very smooth. They quickly took over the entire Lingnan market and doubled their assets. After chatting for a while, Zhengli went upstairs to change into her wedding dress and put on makeup. Later, everyone rushed to the venue together. Zhao Xueqing took out a big red envelope and offered it with both hands. She smiled and said, "Shenlu, I wish you a happy marriage and a long life together." "My God, sister-in-law, how much money is inside?" "This red envelope is like a portfolio." "Let me open it and see." Shenlu squeezed the red envelope and smiled. Zhao Xueqing smiled but didn't say anything. There were actually 3 contracts for the free gift of shares and 3 letters of appointment. Today, DuPont, Rockefeller, and Morgan had all been transformed into a corporation, controlled by Jiang Tian's Sidoni Consortium. Jiang Tian gave 1% of a company's shares to Shenlu. Now, Shenli's personal assets had reached tens of billions of dollars. He could be considered one of the richest people in Huaxia. Moreover, he was appointed as a core member of the board of directors of these 3 companies and had veto power. Jiang Tian had already told Zhao Xueqing about the grudges that had happened in his previous life. Back then, in order to protect her, Shenlu did not care about his own safety. He was stabbed several times, his legs were broken, and he almost died an unnatural death. In this world, what was more precious than life? Now, Jiang Tian and his wife had given Shenlu tens of billions of dollars, so what? Is this child stupid? Who would open a red packet in front of a guest? Zheng Jiuxuan was so angry that his nose was crooked. Why would Jiang Tian and I need these formalities? Shenlu laughed casually and turned to stuff the red packet into a bridesmaid's bag. Shenlu and Zhengli had a few bridesmaids and groomsmen. They were all young masters and socialites from Guangzhou. They were either rich or respectable people. At this time, they were also in the hall, glancing at Jiang Tian, whispering and discussing. Lu Dongxing looked at Jiang Tian and said in surprise, "What's this kid's background? Why did old Master Zheng Jiuxuan come personally to welcome him?" Lu Dongxing's father was the third in command of Lingnan's Department of Land and Resources. To put it bluntly, he could manage Guangxia Group. But when he came, Zheng Jiuxuan did not come out to welcome him. At this time, Zheng Jiuxuan was so respectful to Jiang Tian that he could not help but be curious about Jiang Tian's identity. Although Lingnan was Jiang Tian's sphere of influence, the number of times Jiang Tian had visited Lingnan since his return could be counted on one hand. This was especially true when Jiang Tian went overseas to develop. He rarely even returned to Huaxia. These people did not recognize Jiang Tian at all. Maybe he's the son of some big shot in the province. Another young master, Shuzhe, guessed. Shuzhe's facial lines were soft, and he had a fashionable sideways fringe. He had a bit of a Korean-style beauty, and his temperament was gentle and refined. Shuzhe's family was in the construction business, one of the top brands in the country. His family's assets were in the tens of billions, and he was one of Shenli's close brothers. After Tang Xiaozi, Bai Choufei, Tai Minghuang, and the other old masters left Yangcheng, his status in the circle of young masters rose with the tide. He could be considered a first-tier young master, and one of the top few. Lu Dongxing shook his head and said, "Impossible. I know all the sons of those big shots in the province. There's no such person, not even one with the surname Jiang." Another slightly silent young master, Zhou Maoan, who wore black-rimmed glasses, said, "I think this brother surnamed Jiang isn't simple. His temperament is very handsome, and he's also free and easy. Let's get to know each other and have a helper." Zhou Maoan's family was in the import and export business. Moreover, he had already inherited the family business and was in control of the overall situation. Although he looked quiet and taciturn, he was actually extremely calm and shrewd, far surpassing his peers. "I'll go ask." Shuzhe's personality was more lively and active. He ran over to Zheng Jiuxuan and asked with a smile, "Uncle Zheng, this Mr. Jiang looks unfamiliar. Why don't you introduce him to us? Mr. Jiang is Shenli's former colleague, and he's helped our family quite a bit." Zheng Jiuxuan's expression became awkward. How could you guys be acquainted with someone at the level of Master Kong? Even if you brought out your parents, you still wouldn't have the qualifications. Moreover, where did the introduction of Grandmaster Jiang come from? Jiang Tian's identity was too complicated, and many of his identities couldn't be easily revealed. Seeing that Zheng Jiuxuan didn't know how to open his mouth, Jiang Tian smiled indifferently and said, "My name is Jiang Tian. My hometown is Jinling. I used to be Shenli's colleague, and now I'm developing in Africa." "Africa? You're doing construction?" Shuzhe asked curiously. In Shuzhe's eyes, Africa was a very backward place, and only the construction industry had a bit of opportunity. "You can say that." Jiang Tian also smiled. He started a construction frenzy in Sidoni, and speaking of which, he really did do a lot of construction projects. Shuzhe suddenly lost interest and handed Jiang Tian a business card and said with a smile, "Let's keep in touch in the future." Jiang Tian politely took the business card and said with a smile, "Okay, but I don't have a business card." "It's okay, we'll get to know each other later." Xu Zhi smiled politely, but he was no longer interested in taking Jiang Tian's phone number. He returned to the group of young masters who were acting as groomsmen. What's his background? Lu Dongqing asked. Everyone listened attentively. He's doing construction in Africa. Moreover, he was Shen Li's colleague before, and he's a worker. I don't think he has a big background. Xu Zhi curled his lips in disdain and said with a lack of interest, he must have helped Shen Luo when he was in danger. Uncle Zheng knows how to repay kindness, so he's giving him face. Zhou Maoan, you said that he looks extraordinary, but I don't think so. Another young master, Sun Qingyu, put away his phone and smiled in disdain. His family was in the provincial tax office, and his father was also a deputy director. He opened a tax agency and had a lot of connections. He knew all the famous young masters in Linzhou. However, he had never heard of such a person. A moment later, Zhengli also changed into her wedding dress and put on her makeup. According to the rules of Lingnan, she and Shenlu kowtowed and served tea to the parents of both parties. Then came the firecrackers and music, and all kinds of complicated and cumbersome ceremonies. After the ceremony, they took the wedding car and rushed to the hotel where the wedding was held with many groomsmen and bridesmaids. Accompanied by Zheng Jiushuan, Jiang Tian, Zhao Xueqing, and many other guests went to the wedding venue first. Millennium Xingtian Hotel. Huaxia's economy was developing rapidly. When Jiang Tian was in Linzhou, Millennium Xingtian Hotel didn't exist. Millennium Xingtian Hotel was now built according to the 5-star standard and was extremely luxurious. It was said that the hotel was invested and managed by a hotel group in Singapore. The service was thoughtful and the guests felt at home. The rich children of Linzhou were proud to hold their weddings here. Jiang Tian and the others drove to the entrance of the hotel. However, all the cars were stopped by the lift and the security guards outside the hotel. Why don't you open the door? We're here to attend Shen Lu and Zheng Li's wedding. Someone in the lead car opened the door and asked. Sorry. This hotel has been booked today. You're not allowed to go in. The head of the security guards said formally. What? There's such a thing. Didn't the bride and groom's families make an appointment and pay a deposit? Everyone was dumbfounded. At this time, the person in charge of the wedding company ran over in a panic and said, Where are the bride and groom? Their parents can come too. Something has happened. What's going on? How could it be occupied by someone else? We made an appointment 3 months ago. After hearing the news, Zheng Li's father had already gotten out of the car and was in contact with the hotel manager. At this moment, he quickly went up and asked. Do you know Xi Mengwan? The person in charge of the wedding company raised his hand and pointed at the huge poster with the bride and groom's photos at the entrance of the hotel. Zheng Li's father frowned and said, I know her. This woman is a supermodel from Linzhou. She's very famous internationally. She once endorsed a high-end real estate project of the Guangxia Group. Some things were not convenient for him to say in public. At that time, Shenlu was already the project director and was responsible for liaising with Xi Mengwan. Xi Mengwan saw that Shenlu was young and handsome. At that time, Shenlu was not fat and had hundreds of millions of assets. His personality was simple and gentle, and he didn't have the domineering attitude of other rich people of his age. She secretly had feelings for Shenlu. Although she knew that Shenlu already had a girlfriend, Xi Mengwan still didn't give up. She teased and hinted that she wanted to get into Shenli's bed. Although Shenlu had a vicious tongue, he had also experienced emotional pain. He cherished and was loyal in relationships. He was never ambiguous. Naturally, he didn't take the bait and even asked Xi Mengwan to respect herself. Otherwise, they couldn't even be friends. Xi Mengjuan's first plan didn't work, so she came up with another plan. She photoshopped intimate photos of her and Shenlu and sent them to Zhengli to sow discord and let Zhengli know that she was leaving. However, Zhengli knew Shenli's character and trusted him. She was not moved at all. She was annoyed and scolded Xi Mengwan in the chat. Shi Mengwan pestered Shenlu a few more times, but Shenlu was still stubborn. She was defeated and resentful. After the project ended, she didn't contact Shenlu again. However, when such a thing happened at this time, people couldn't help but think. Shi Mengwan was also getting married today and had booked the whole hotel. She was obviously back to slap Shenlu and Zhengli. Chapter 874. The hotel has been booked by Shi Mengwan and her husband. The wedding planner rubbed his hands and smiled bitterly. The hotel manager said that Shi Mengwan intends to spend 50 million to buy some shares of this hotel. To put it bluntly, she is now the owner of this hotel. This is also the reason why the hotel management did not inform us in advance. They dare not go against the boss's opinion. In my opinion, Shi Mengwan's purpose is to slap your two families in the face. The faces of Shenlu and Zhengli's families were ashen, as if they had eaten a fly. They were extremely disgusted. The wedding planner smiled bitterly and sighed. Shi Mengwan did not hesitate to spend 50 million just for a slap in the face. This woman is quite crazy. This is the situation. Let's quickly think of a countermeasure. What do you two think? They are breaching the contract. We can sue them. Shenli's father was a small boss. He was not so shrewd. He immediately said angrily. Yes, there is a penalty for breach of contract. The wedding planner smiled bitterly. When we signed the contract, we paid the hotel a total of more than 5 million for the venue, meal, and other expenses. The penalty for breach of contract is half. It is set at 2.5 million. The problem is, if you go to court, it will be 10 days later. Isn't this marriage also ruined by others? Zhengli's father glared at Shenli's father and frowned. They did not hesitate to spend 50 million to slap Shenlu and Zhengli's faces. Do they lack 2 million? Even if we have to compensate you, we will make you uncomfortable and unhappy. Then what should we do? Shenli's father looked bitter and helpless. He frowned and said, "What's the matter?" He frowned and said, "The guests are all here, but they are not allowed to enter. Our two families will lose face. Changing the hotel at the last minute and missing the auspicious day. Which hotel in Linzhou can accommodate thousands of guests? Only Qianqi Xingtian can." Just when everyone was at their wits' end. Shenlu also called and said anxiously, "Dad, wait a moment. Our wedding car team is blocked." What? He was blocked by someone. It's almost 12 o'clock. Shenli's father broke out in cold sweat. It can't be helped. It seems that Shi Mengjuan's wedding car team collided with ours. Shenlu was also very depressed. Don't worry, there's a situation at the hotel. Shenli's father could only hang up the phone. What the hell is going on? A perfectly good wedding had been turned into a complete mess. At that moment, the groomsmen came over and learned about the situation. Sun Qingyu volunteered, "Uncle Zheng, Uncle Shen, don't worry. Let's go and take a look." Alright, alright, alright. Little Sun, you go. Little Sun's family is from the local tax bureau. How would a restaurant owner dare to not give them face? Zhengli's father's face lit up as he hurriedly said. Sun Qingyu smiled proudly and said, "It's just a small matter. How can such a small character dare to mess with us?" Then, he strode into the hotel. However, Sun Qingyu did not return for a long time. Following that, several reputable groomsmen went in to negotiate with the hotel. Everyone waited anxiously outside the hotel. It was already 11:30, but there was still no response. On the other side of the hotel, moving music could be heard. The MC was shouting exaggeratedly, and the alluring smell of food could be smelled. At this moment, Shenlu and his wife's wedding car arrived. During this period of time, everyone had already contacted them. The result was not good. All the big and small hotels in Linzhou were full. There was no hotel that could provide a wedding venue. After all, it was already the end of the year. There were a lot of newlyweds. The appointments had started 3 months ago. It was already full. There was no choice. They still had to negotiate with Millennium Tianqing Hotel. The wedding could only be held there. In the wedding car, Zheng Li's face was a little pale. She was so angry that her delicate body was trembling slightly. She didn't expect such a thing to happen on her wedding day. Shenlu hurriedly apologized. I'm sorry, Zheng Li. It's my family's fault. I didn't give you a perfect wedding. If it doesn't happen today, I'll definitely hold a grand wedding for you. Zheng Li forced a smile and said, Shenlu, it's not your fault. This is Xi Mengzhuan's doing. At this moment, a figure in a white wedding dress walked out from the hotel lobby. Xi Mengwan was a model. Her figure was tall and outstanding. Her temperament was also excellent. To be honest, she completely suppressed Zheng Li. Because of the wedding, she had dressed up meticulously. Her black hair was in a beautiful bun, and she was wearing a real diamond tiara, a matching ruby necklace, and half-moon diamond earrings. She looked like she had walked out of the cover of a fashion magazine. Beside him, Sun Qingyu and the others followed him out with drooping eyes. The situation didn't look good. Under the escort of a few bridesmaids, Xi Mengwan walked quickly in her high heels. She was wearing a white long glove and holding a glass of red wine. Her face was slightly tipsy and her eyes were filled with joy. Shenlu, Zheng Li, are you satisfied with this wedding banquet? Xi Mengwan came to the entrance of the hotel and looked at the newlyweds in the wedding car proudly. Damn, it's fine if you bully us. You even dare to challenge us. Zheng Li was furious. She opened the door and got out of the car. She said angrily, Xi Mengwan, you've gone too far. Shenlu quickly picked up a windbreaker and put it on Zheng Li. He gently advised, forget it, Zheng Li. You're pregnant. Don't catch a cold. Xi Mengwan was arrogant and said with a mocking face, have I gone too far? So what if I've gone too far? I'm rich, so I can be willful. Spending 5 million to embarrass you, I think it's worth it. If you have the guts, bite me. Ha, from today onwards, you, young Master Shen, will be the laughing stock of the entire Lin Zhou. Do you have money? Do you have status? In the end, you still let thousands of guests accompany you to drink the northwest wind. At this moment, Xi Mengwan felt a kind of extreme pleasure. The pleasure of revenge. She did not come from a good family. Her early life was homeless and her childhood was very dark and unfortunate. She developed a contradictory mentality of inferiority and narcissism. Although her identity as a supermodel allowed her to enjoy a lot of attention and glory, it still could not fill the black hole of inferiority in her heart. Every time she was embarrassed, she would have an irritated reaction. She must return it 10 times, 100 times. Especially in the case of Shenlu, she had tasted a deep sense of defeat and humiliation. Beauty, figure, charm, and the fame of being an international supermodel were her assets that she was proud of. In her opinion, there was no man in the world who could resist her fatal temptation. But Shen Li's decisiveness made her feel defeated and ashamed. Every time she thought of it, she was in extreme pain. People like Xi Mengwan were used to blaming others for their mistakes and taking revenge to reverse the psychological imbalance. So, she had never reflected that she did not know how to love and respect herself. She acted as a third party and stole from others, which was why she was humiliated. Instead, she thought that Shenlu had no taste and did not know her charm. She thought that Zheng Li took advantage of her family's wealth to steal the man she loved, hurt her, and humiliated her. So, when she obtained some resources and thought that she could crush Zheng Li and Shenlu, she simply took revenge. Xi Mengzhuan's words were like a knife, ruthlessly stabbing Zheng Li's heart, causing her delicate body to tremble. The Zhang and Shen families were so angry that they almost vomited blood. Do you have to have others like you just because you like them? You are not money. Why are you loved by everyone? Simply unreasonable. At this time, Sun Qingyu walked over and gently advised, forget it, Zheng Li, Shenlu, don't fight with them. You can't win. Shuja hesitated and smiled bitterly. Her husband is the son of Singapore's president, Lee Hsien Loong. The people who attended their wedding are all big shots that we can't afford to offend. Lingnan's Tang Weiman. America's Hilton family's eldest daughter, Paris Hilton. Morgan family's head, Old Morgan. Rockefeller family's eldest son. And Singapore's eldest daughter, Guo Lily, of the Guo family. This Millennium Grand Sky Hotel is controlled by Guo Lily. Millennium Hotel Group was originally the Guo family's property. He took a deep breath and said mysteriously, I heard that even Yenjing's Mo family's Mo Yuza is attending. Finally, Shuja shook his head and sighed. Don't fight with them. They are too powerful, you can't afford to offend them. If you cause trouble, it will be a foreign incident, and the nature of it will be very serious. Even if you have a lot of connections, you won't be able to cover it up. Every time Shuja said a name, everyone's hearts trembled as if they were being hammered. Every time he said a word, everyone's faces turned paler. By the time he finished, everyone's faces were paler than a corpse that had been dead for 3 days. These were all very important people. It seems that Xi Mengwan has really climbed up the social ladder, and we can't afford to offend her. Shenlu and Zhengli might not have a good ending after offending such a person. Chapter 875. The reason why Shuja mentioned the names of the guests attending Xi Mengjuan's wedding was to let Shenlu and Zhengli know who they had offended. They were about to face a powerful and terrifying existence. It was also to let them understand what Shuja and the groomsmen were going to do next. At this time, Lu Dongqing was a little ashamed and apologetic. Shenlu and Zhengli, why don't you find a hotel to hold the wedding tonight? We'll definitely attend. I'll go in and have a meal first, I'm really hungry. Then you go. After all, we haven't arranged the banquet yet. We're too neglectful. Zhengli's face was pale as she forced a smile. Sparkling tears were rolling in her eyes. She restrained herself for a long time, but still, she didn't cry. Shenli's face was full of humiliation, but at this time, they were clearly not giving him face. He couldn't say anything else and could only smoke silently. Zhou Maoan frowned and said angrily, brothers, this isn't good. Aren't we slapping Shenli's face at this critical time? How can Shenli get out of this? Sun Qingyu explained with a wry smile, there's no other way. My father also came over with Dun. He just asked me to go over. How can I not go? He quickly added, Shenlu and Zhengli, don't think too much. We're still friends. Sometimes, in the underworld, you can't help yourself. Please understand, okay? In the end, besides Zhou Maoan, Xu Zhe and the other young masters also expressed that they wanted to attend Xi Mengjuan's wedding. After all, in their eyes, Xi Mengjuan's partner was the son of a country's head of state. Shenlu couldn't compare at all. Okay, you can go. I understand. Zhengli's face stiffened and tears finally rolled down her cheeks. She quickly wiped her tears and squeezed out a smile that was uglier than crying. She said in a trembling voice, we'll inform you when we book the hotel. You're still welcome to attend our wedding. It's been hard on you. Shenli's face was full of sorrow. He said with shame and emotion, Zhengli, don't worry. I'll make it up to you for the rest of my life. In this situation, Zhengli didn't cry out loud and didn't make a fuss. She was already very sensible. Shenli's parents were also very apologetic, but they couldn't do anything. They could only let their daughter-in-law suffer. Shenlu, Zhengli, did you see that? Even your groomsmen are attending my wedding. Xi Mengwan sipped her red wine and said proudly, do you feel abandoned by the whole world? You're even worse than a beggar. Let me tell you, this is just the beginning. Just wait for my thunderous fury and crazy revenge. From now on, I will be the First Lady of Singapore. I will eat all of you until not even your bones are left. Xi Mengwan, hurry up and give the hotel to my brother. I really want to see him walk into a happy marriage. At this moment, Jiang Tian walked out of the car with his hands behind his back and said calmly, "Also, we're going in to eat. My wife is hungry." Having crushed Shen Lu and Zheng Li, the adulterous pair, Xi Mengwan was feeling proud of herself. How satisfying! How satisfying! It felt so good. I feel like the shadow in my heart has disappeared in an instant. The whole world was bright and sunny. However, she had never expected that someone would be so blind as to jump out and say such words. She was instantly enraged. Didn't he know that her in-laws were influential? That was an entire country. Who would dare to offend them? Don't you know that I'm Li Xianlong's daughter-in-law? Xi Mengwan was arrogant and looked at Jiang Tian with contempt. She looked at him as if he was an idiot. Don't you know that even the provincial officials are attending my wedding? What kind of influential background do you have? How dare you act so rashly? She crossed her arms in front of her chest, and with the other hand, she pretended to shake the red wine glass a few times and took a sip. Only with such a superior attitude could she show her disregard for Shen Lu, Zheng Li, and all their relatives. Only with such arrogance could Shen Lu understand what he had missed out on. Only then could Zheng Li realize that she was no match for her. Li Xianlong. He's just a dog that I raised. Let him come out and call me master. Jiang Tian smiled faintly. Dead silence. The moment he said that, the whole place was dead silent. Everyone stared at Jiang Tian with their mouths agape, not daring to believe their eyes. Oh my God! Where did this young man come from? How dare he call Li Xianlong a dog? He's the head of state. This is going to kill someone. What the fuck, is this kid crazy? Sun Qingyu jumped in fright. He wanted to cover Jiang Tian's mouth to stop him from spouting nonsense. Most of the guests didn't know Jiang Tian's background. They only thought that Jiang Tian was a lunatic who was going to cause trouble. Zheng Li's father was so scared that his face turned pale. He ran to Zheng Jiushuan's car window and shouted, "Brother, who is this Mr. Jiang? Something is going to happen. Why don't you go out and talk to him? What are you panicking for? How would you know Master Kang's background?" Zheng Jiushuan sat in the car motionlessly. There was a hint of mockery on his old face. Don't stop her. This crazy woman can bully my Zheng family, but she dares to provoke Master Kang. I'll make sure she dies. As expected, Xi Mengwan had already jumped up and shouted, "You bastard, kneel down and admit your mistake," smack. Jiang Tian raised his hand and slapped Xi Mengwan across the face. She fell to the ground. Xi Mengwan's cheek was broken and blood seeped out. She touched a handful of blood and screamed like a madwoman. "How dare you hit me? How dare you hit me? Do you know how much my face is worth?" Xi Mengzhuan's younger brother had accompanied her out earlier. When he saw this, he immediately pointed at Jiang Tian and closed in on him. He shouted angrily, "How dare you hit me? Do you want to die?" Smack! Jiang Tian slapped him again and sent him flying more than 10 meters away. His head was bleeding and he lay there motionless. No one knew if he was dead or alive. In an instant, there was a dead silence. Only the whistling of the north wind and the flying snow could be heard. Everyone looked at Jiang Tian in disbelief, dumbfounded. It was no exaggeration for Xi Mengwan to say that he was a relative of the emperor. Who would dare to hit him? This battle had caused quite a commotion. Immediately, Xi Mengzhuan's family members came out and pointed at Jiang Tian and scolded him. Xi Mengwan was born in a poor family. Almost all of her family members used to be gangsters or unemployed people. Although they were dressed luxuriously, their temperament was rough and their behavior was frivolous. They still gave people the feeling that they were monkeys wearing hats. After suddenly becoming rich, they felt that the entire world was theirs. They were extremely arrogant. How could they tolerate this? Everyone was filled with righteous indignation and scolded Jiang Tian fiercely. Xi Mengzhuan's father spat a mouthful of thick phlegm and roared loudly. do you know who our Mengwan is? Boy, do you know that you're in trouble? You can't afford to offend our Shi family. He waved his rough hand and shouted, call Tang over. I'd like to see what kind of explanation he'll give me. There are such unruly bandits under his rule. He put his hands on his waist, revealing the Patek Philippe on his arm. He shouted with vigor like a big shot. Call my son-in-law over and let him call the national figures. I don't believe that I can't take care of you. Since Li Xianlong's son was coming, Jiang Tian was too lazy to make a move. At the wedding, the groom, Li Fifan, had drunk so much that his face was red. He said with some reverence, Tang, as far as I know, Lin Zhou is the second hometown of Master Kong of Singapore, the protector of Singapore, the leader of Tianqing School, the king of Sidoni, and the strongest man on the Holy See's divine list, Kong Te Chu. Is that right? I think there should be some relics left by Master Kong here. Tang, please bring me here to pay my respects. That's easy. Tang Weiman nodded and smiled. Actually, with your father's relationship with Master Kong, it's not a problem to visit Master Kong in Sidoni. Li Fifan said with a bitter face, alas, I've admired Master Kong for a long time. But my father said that I'm young and useless, so he didn't bring me to meet him. Tang Weiman changed the topic and said with a smile, where's the bride? Why did she go downstairs halfway through the toast? At this time, a bodyguard rushed up and shouted in English, oh no, the bride was beaten by someone downstairs. What? Li Fifan couldn't believe it. He looked downstairs and was immediately enraged. He saw Shi Mengwan still lying on the ground and a young man standing there with his hands behind his back, full of arrogance. He was furious and said coldly, Tang, you have to give me an explanation for this. You must punish the culprit. Tape? What tape? Tang Weiman looked downstairs and suddenly his pupils shrank. He smiled bitterly. Mr. Li, I'm afraid this is troublesome. The one who beat her is Master Kong. Li Fifan was stunned and said in surprise, Jiang. Master Kong? Which Master Kong? Could it be? Yes. Tang Weiman smiled bitterly and explained, the Spring Festival is coming. He brought his wife back to Lin Zhou to celebrate the Spring Festival. He sighed and said with a puzzled face, but how did Shi Mengwan get into trouble with him? Fifan, your wife is so blind. She's in big trouble. At this moment, Paris Hilton hurriedly walked up to the two of them and told them everything that had happened. Li Fifan's face changed drastically and he exclaimed, how could this happen? Go and solve it. I remind you, Master Kong can kill people when he's angry. Paris said helplessly. Everyone, what should I do? This time it's over for me. I'll be killed. Li Fifan was as anxious as an ant on a hot pan. He was out of his wits. Now, Jiang Tian was not just the Grand Preceptor of Singapore. He was the Lord of Sidoni, the most powerful country in the world. Such a country could even shake the United States. It had changed the international situation. It was not just the Li Xianlong family relying on Jiang Tian alone. The entire Singapore had abandoned the United States and was willing to be Sidoni's vassal. That was the established national policy. Chapter 876. Cut off the relationship. Paris smiled and said, you should learn from the Crown Prince of Yenjing, young Master Mo Yuza. A few days ago, a distant aunt of mine offended Grandmaster Jiang. We had no choice but to put her whole family behind bars to appease Grandmaster Jiang's anger. Mo Yuza smiled wryly and said, a few days ago, my distant aunt offended Grandmaster Jiang. His face was solemn and full of admiration. However, Master Kang's heart is really broader than the blue sky and the ocean. After my grandfather came to apologize, he didn't pursue the matter anymore. I see. I understand. Thank you for your advice, young Master Mo. Li Fifan wiped the cold sweat on his forehead and had some ideas. The key is that you must be ruthless. Mo Yuza kindly reminded him. Beat those who dare to yell at Master Kong half to death so that Master Kong can vent his anger. Don't worry. I'm a black belt in Taekwondo. Li Fifan hurriedly ran out of the door. Shi Gosheng. Li Fifan came downstairs and roared like a tiger or a dragon. How dare you disrespect Master Kong? Shi Mengjuan's father was a little confused. How can my son-in-law call me by my name? After all, this is a wedding and there are so many people watching. But there's nothing I can do. Who asked me to marry him? Shi Mengwan, Shi Gosheng, and the others ran to Li Fifan as if they had seen their savior and complained about Zhang Tian's atrocities. My dear son-in-law, this is the culprit who dared to hit Mengwan. Hurry up and ask the bodyguards to beat him to death. Shi Gosheng pointed at Zhang Tian and shouted angrily, Kid, hurry up and kneel down. Kid, hurry up and kneel down for me. Hee, do you see that? My son-in-law is here. Li Fifan was so scared that he almost blacked out. His heart almost exploded on the spot. Oh my God. Why don't you shut up? Why are you still fighting with Master Kong? Are you trying to get me killed? At this moment, he was full of regret. Before the wedding, his father, Li Xianlong, didn't agree to the marriage and didn't even attend the wedding. Li Xianlong thought that although Shi Mengwan was good-looking, she had no background and a poor upbringing. Not only would she not help his career, but she would even drag him down. At that time, Li Fifan didn't believe it. After all, he was the son of the country's premier. How much trouble could Shi Mengwan cause that he couldn't handle? Now, he had no choice but to believe it. This woman was simply a jinx. This family was simply trying to push him into a fire pit. In a fit of rage, he raised his hand and slapped him. Shut up. Pa. Dog Ishi was dizzy from the beating. He lay on the ground like a dead dog, his whole body in a daze. He covered his face and said in astonishment, Son-in-law, are you crazy? How could you hit me on such a joyous occasion? So what if I hit you? I can even kill you. How dare you disrespect Master Kong? Li Fifan kicked Dog Shi's remaining face a few times. Clang! Clang! The hard leather soles made intimate contact with Dog Ishi's ugly face again and again. In an instant, Dog Ishi's ugly face was lacerated and bleeding. His nose was crushed and several teeth fell out. Li Fifan, what are you doing? Shi Mengyao was stunned for a moment, then suddenly pulled Li Fifan and shouted resentfully, Why did you beat my father? Why did you hit my father? Do you think you can disrespect him just because he's poor? She crossed her arms and said with a cold face, I'll tell you. I, Shi Mengyao, don't rely on any rich family, nor do I have any extravagant hopes of marrying into a rich family. Because I'm rich myself. She wasn't really being arrogant, but deliberately put on a noble and arrogant posture. She knew that this was the only way to arouse a man's desire to conquer. She wanted to tell Li Fifan that she was different from those coquettish bitches who only knew how to kneel and suck up. She was an independent modern woman. Apologize to my father immediately, or this marriage will be annulled. She said aggressively. After that, she turned her face to the side with a frosty face, as if she didn't want to look at Li Fifan anymore. In fact, she knew that Li Fifan was going to apologize to her and beg her softly. It was the same every time, and it never failed. Unexpectedly, Li Fifan jumped up happily, clapped his hands and laughed, Good, I was just thinking of annulling this marriage. I didn't expect you to annul it first. Good, great. What did you say? Shi Mengwan couldn't believe it and said in shock, Li Fifan, you're abandoning me. Why? She panicked, completely panicked. She asked with a hint of pleading in her tone, I was beaten up so badly. My father said a few words for me, but you sided with an outsider and even hit him. I said a few words, and now you're abandoning me. Why is this happening? I'm going to hit you too. Li Fifan gave Shi Mengwan a heavy slap in the face and shouted loudly, This is the wedding venue of the Zheng family. What right do you have to drive people away? And humiliate them? Is this how your family does things? How much money do you have? He rebuked with righteous indignation. You bully the weak like this. Rich people are heartless. If I marry you, won't I be killed by you? A few clear fingerprints appeared on Shi Mingjuan's face after being slapped by Li Fifan. Her face was swollen like a pig's head and her nose was bleeding. So, this marriage is annulled. Li Fifan shouted sternly. He was still angry and kicked Shi Mengwan a few more times. At this time, Shi Mengwan was kicked to the ground and was completely stunned. The small crown on her head also fell off and her hair was messy. She fell on the muddy snow. Her wedding dress was messy and one of her high heels was missing. She was so embarrassed that she looked like a beggar on the street. And Li Fifan already couldn't be bothered with her, quickly walked in front of Jiang Tian, bowed deeply and said, Grand Master Jiang, please forgive this disciple's sins. At this moment, Shen Li's groomsmen, Sun Qingyu, Xu Zhe, and the others were stunned and couldn't believe it. What's going on? Who is this Mr. Jiang? How can he make the son of a country's prime minister bow down? Shi Mengwan also froze on the spot as if she had been struck by lightning. She was dumbfounded and couldn't believe it. She didn't expect that she had offended such a big shot who could make Li Fifan bow down. But then she thought about it and was angry. This kid ruined everything for her. A grand and glorious wedding and a chance to marry into a rich family. Then, she noticed that Paris was also at the entrance of the hotel. She pointed at Jiang Tian and said coldly, this is not over. Do you think my identity is so simple in the future? You're wrong. I'm still Paris's exclusive model. She and I are like sisters. Can you afford to offend the Californian consortium? Can you afford to offend the Rockefeller family? Can you afford to offend the Morgan family? Shi Mengwan did have some capital. She was a supermodel who walked the runway in the Victoria's Secret fashion show and was one of the top models in Huaxia. She even signed with Paris's fashion company. She thought that if Paris said something, these American conglomerates would put pressure on Jiang Tian. Even if Jiang Tian was the crown prince of Yanjin, he would have to bow down to them. Suppressing Jiang Tian was like taking drastic measures. Who knew, he might even be able to save this marriage. Honey, you saw it for yourself. I was bullied. You have to help me. Teach him a lesson. Shi Mengwan got up and walked to Paris. She pointed at Jiang Tian with tears in her eyes and said viciously. Sigh, Mr. Jiang is too impulsive. I heard that these Americans are getting more and more influential in Huaxia. They can even talk to the top officials in Huaxia. Yeah, I heard about it too. They have already entered the Huaxia market. Their influence is terrifying. I'm afraid that Mr. Jiang is going to be defeated this time. Sun Qingyu and the others shook their heads and smiled wryly. Shen Lu, Zheng Li, and the others also had a trace of worry on their faces. Jiang Tian's ability to suppress Li Fifan was indeed shocking. However, these were all established American conglomerates who could influence the presidential election. Jiang Tian might not be able to suppress them. Unexpectedly, Paris raised her hand and slapped Shi Mingjuan's face. She said coldly, how dare you be disrespectful to Grandmaster Jiang? You are crazy. What? Paris, you're also on his side. We're your models and your best friends. Shi Mengwan couldn't believe it. Ha, supermodel. You're just a piece of trash who can't get up after falling down at the Victoria's Secret show. You call yourself a supermodel? Perez looked down at her like a high and mighty empress. She smiled coldly and said, you're right. Best friend? Ha, what makes you qualified to be my best friend? You're just a frog at the bottom of a well. You don't know Master Kang's great influence. All the Californian conglomerates, including the Marshall family, follow Master Kang's lead. The Rockefeller, Morgan, and DuPont conglomerates are Master Kang's private property. Grandmaster Jiang's words are like an imperial edict in the outside world. You still dare to have a grudge against Grandmaster Jiang? I think you're tired of living. What? How can this be? How is this possible? I've never heard of it. Shi Mengwan couldn't believe it. She didn't know that this young man had such a powerful background. Jones Jewelry, Aniline and many other European brands are controlled by Master Kong. I think, from today onwards, you will completely disappear from the international fashion industry. Paris sneered with disdain. Paris, I know I'm wrong. Help me one last time. Shi Mengwan trembled as if she was struck by lightning. Her face turned pale and her eyes glazed over. She couldn't believe it. She didn't expect that her willful behavior would not only ruin her marriage, but also her career. At this time, Guo Lily quickly walked in front of Jiang Tian and bowed deeply. Her pretty face was full of flattery as she said with a smile, "Thank you. Grandmaster Jiang, the largest empress hall has already prepared the wedding banquet. Let's invite the two newlyweds and their friends and family to the wedding." Okay. Jiang Tian nodded calmly. Shen Lu and Zheng Li were also overjoyed. Many members of the Shen and Zheng family were cheering. Oh my God! Oh my God! At this time, Zheng Li's best friend, the bridesmaid, took out the red envelope that Jiang Tian and his wife had given her. She took out the document inside and looked at it. Suddenly, as if she had been shot, she screamed exaggeratedly. Chapter 877. What's wrong? Zheng Li asked. Zheng Li, look. The bridesmaid widened her eyes and said with a trembling voice. Shen Lu is now the second biggest shareholder of the Rockefeller, DuPont and the Morgan Financial Group. He's even a member of the board of directors. Grandmaster Jiang, why would you give such a valuable gift? Zheng Li also widened her eyes in disbelief. However, the words were clearly written in black and white. Nice to meet you, Mr. Shen. Nice to meet you, boss. At this time, several representatives of the Morgan, Rockefeller, and DuPont families came before Shen Lu and bowed to pay their respects. At this moment, Sun Qingyu, Xu Zhe, Lu Dongqing, and the others were all dumbfounded. It turned out that Shen Li's personal assets were only a few hundred million. They all called Shen Lu brothers and treated him as equals. But then, Shen Li's personal wealth had reached the scale of a few $100 billion. They couldn't catch up with him at all. Shen Lu, you'll be the CEO of these conglomerates in the future. Don't forget that Linzhou City is your hometown. Bring some investments. Don also walked over. Brother Shen Lu, I'm Mo Yuza from the Mo family in Yanjin. I apologize for my rudeness. Can I have a drink with the bridegroom? Please take care of me in the future. Mo Yuza also walked over with a smile. He didn't have a chance to be friends with Jiang Tian, so he could only start with Jiang Tian's friends and family. Bai Choufei, Tang Xiaozi and Iron Monarch of Linzhou City are here to congratulate you. Then, a few more luxury cars arrived at the entrance. After the announcement, the MC shouted excitedly. Welcome, distinguished guests. Welcome. It really makes us feel honored and your presence brings light to our humble dwelling. Your presence brings light to my humble dwelling. Zheng Li's father was overjoyed and hurried to greet them. I just received a notice from Master Kong and learned that brother Shen Lu is getting married today, so I took a helicopter here. Luckily, I'm not late. Bai Choufei said with a smile. Uncle Zheng, you're so mean. Today is Shen Lu and Zheng Li's wedding and you didn't tell us. Iron Monarch also smiled. It's my fault. I'll punish you with 3 glasses of wine later. Zheng Li's father said with a smile. He thought to himself, you've all gone overseas to develop yourselves as the top tycoons in the world. I'm just here to send an invitation. If you don't come, won't it be even more awkward for me? She watched as the American dignitaries, princes, high-ranking officials, and tycoons, whom she usually looked up to, were all courteous and respectful to Shen Lu and Zheng Li, chatting and laughing with Shen Lu. Shi Mengzhuan's face was pale as paper, as if she'd been struck by lightning. Her entire body trembled like a sieve, and her lips trembled madly, yet she was unable to say a single word. At this moment, she found it hard to believe, and it was too late for regret. A surge of regret rushed to the top of his head. The regret in his heart could not be washed away even by the 3 rivers and the 5 seas. Originally, she thought that by marrying Li Fifan, she could finally suppress Shen Lu and let him know what he had lost. This was also why she was courting death today, seizing the hotel and squeezing Shen Lu and his wife. All for the sake of venting his resentment. But looking at it now, Shen Li's status was probably even incomparable to Li Fifan. What's more, because she'd gone too far, she'd been kicked away by Li Fifan, and even lost her job. At this moment, she was penniless, like a rat crossing the street, hated by everyone. How could she be worthy of Shen Lu? What qualifications did she have to ridicule and crush Shen Lu and Zheng Li? Surrounded by many guests, Shen Lu looked at Jiang Tian gratefully. His eyes were slightly red, and he said in a trembling voice, "Brother, I don't deserve it. This is too expensive, I dare not accept it." Jiang Tian patted him on the shoulder and said, "But this is what you deserve, so don't be so polite." At this moment, the wedding host was jumping with excitement, and he shouted, "The auspicious day has arrived. Let's invite the 2 newlyweds, Master Kong, and all the guests to enter the wedding venue." He was very excited. Today's event was too exciting, full of twists and turns, and full of drama. He didn't expect that in the end, it would end with the Prime Minister's son bowing his head, beating his newlywed wife, and tearing up the marriage contract. Witnessing this with his own eyes, great. It was enough for him to brag for the rest of his life. At this moment, Sun Qingyu and the other young masters of Yangqing hurriedly came to Shen Lu and said, "Shen Lu, sorry about just now. Blame us for being short-sighted. But don't take it to heart, we will punish ourselves by drinking 3 cups to apologize to you." Zheng Li didn't hit a smiling face, so she didn't comment. But Shen Lu said with a poisonous tongue, "I welcome Zhou Maoan to attend the wedding, but you guys can forget about it, go attend Xi Mingzhuan's wedding. She has the ability, so you guys should curry favor with her." After saying that, he flicked his sleeves and left, accompanying Jiang Tian and his wife into the hotel. It wasn't that he thought his status was high and looked down on them. It was that their performance just now was too disappointing. Shen Lu and Zheng Li were already embarrassed by Xi Mingzhuan's words, and it was hard enough. Other than Zhou Maoan who didn't leave, everyone else left. Wasn't this adding insult to injury? Lu Dongqing, Sun Qingyu, and Xu Zhe were embarrassed, and their hearts were full of regret. Sun Qingyu's face darkened, and he smiled bitterly. "Sigh, I misjudged today and lost an opportunity to save us 10 years of hard work. But, I really didn't know he was so awesome, I've never heard of him before." Xu Zhe was also depressed. In the Empress Hall, everything was ready. First bow to heaven and earth. Second bow to the parents. Husband and wife bow to each other. The ceremony is complete. With the MC's words, the newlyweds completed the wedding ceremony, which happened to be the auspicious time, not a minute later. Zheng Jiushuan, both parents, and the guests of the 2 families were all smiling from ear to ear. Zheng Jiushuan was still considered a rich man in Linzhou, but in Lingnan, he couldn't be ranked at all in the world. But now, the rich people of the world were gathered at the wedding, and Tang was the witness. This was too honorable. But Zheng Jiushuan understood that all this was brought about by Jiang Tian. Shen Li's greatest luck in this life was meeting Mr. Jiang. And Jiang Tian's face was gratified, and his eyes were gentle. Seeing Shen Li's current appearance, one of his wishes was fulfilled. After the wedding ceremony, Jiang Tian immediately said goodbye to Shen Lu and Zheng Li. Jiang Tian didn't have too many arrangements and interventions for Shen Li's future life. Whether Shen Lu wanted to go to the United States to supervise the 3 consortia, or to stay in Linzhou and be a rich man who reaped dividends, it was fine. Today, Jiang Tian was almost invincible on earth. In the country, except for the Kunlun sect and Hongmeng, and abroad, except for the 2 big mountains of the Holy See and Brahman, no one was qualified to provoke him. Not even the big countries of the world. Of course, Shenlu and Jiang Tian's relatives and friends were also safe. This was also the reason why Jiang Tian deliberately kept a distance from Shenlu, but chose this time to get close to Shenlu. He was ruthless to his enemies, but cherished and cared for his relatives and friends in every way possible. He wasn't a hothead, but a 10,000-year-old demon who was well aware of the darkness and cruelty of the world. He had always taken one step, looked 2 steps ahead, and thought 3 steps ahead. He understood that rashly revealing his relationship with Shenlu would instead bring a great disaster to Shenlu. Jiang Tian was very glad. Ever since his return, he had been pushing his way through, making enemies everywhere and killing countless people. Today, he was the #1 person in the world. However, due to his caution, his meticulous planning, and his far-sighted arrangements, he had only kicked one of his subordinates. Over the past year, Jiang Tian had gone through bloody massacres all over the world. He had made everyone understand how terrible the consequences of offending Jiang Tian were. Therefore, he made his relationship with Shenlu public at this time. For the next few days, Jiang Tian went back and forth to Yanjing, Jinling, and Linzhou to visit many relatives and old friends, and spend a peaceful and happy spring festival. On the 2nd day of the spring festival, Jiang Tian finally began the expedition to the Heavenly Star small world that he had been planning for several days. Originally, Jiang Tian's plan was to first search the earth and push his cultivation to the middle stage of the foundation establishment stage before entering the small world of the Yin sect. But the plan couldn't keep up with the changes. The Heavenly Star Palace might invade on a large scale, so Jiang Tian had to make the first move. In the old villa in Linzhou, Jiang Tian took Qing'er's little hand and said with a smile, "Qing'er, I'm going to the Heavenly Star Palace." Alas, I already guessed it. Zhao Xueqing rubbed her swollen belly and smiled bitterly, saying, "You've always been the first to strike. Since the Heavenly Star Palace has shown hostility and become a threat to you, you must catch them off guard before they do anything. I also want to live a peaceful life and wait for the birth of my baby daughter," but Jiang Tian stroked Zhao Xueqing's belly, shook his head, and sighed. "If they find us and attack us when we're unprepared, we'll be very passive." "I understand, but you said that there are hundreds of human immortals, earth immortals, and heaven immortals in the heavenly star sky. You have to be very careful," Zhao Xueqing said worriedly. "This time, you have to bring all the experts of the Tianqing school, including Yi Tianren. Honey, you should still have some confidence in me." Jiang Tian smiled. "This time, I'll only set foot in the Heavenly Star Palace and bring Yi Tianren and the Purple Gold True Dragon with me. Everyone else, stay." Now that the Yin sect had opened, many people in the Yin sect thought that the conditions for the spirit chi recovery of the wasteland on Earth had been met. It was very likely that they would rush to invade the Earth, seize the dojos, and enslave humans. And the Tianqing school was the first target. Because the Tianqing school had already taken control of a country. For the people in the Yin sect, it was the most convenient. Controlling the Tianqing school was equivalent to controlling everything. Moreover, the Heavenly Star Palace was not the only Yin sect. There were more than a dozen of them, big and small. Who knew which one would come down first? Now that Zhao Xueqing was pregnant, she could not make a move. Therefore, all the experts had to stay behind to guard the Tianqing school. "Well, then we'll listen to you. Let Situ and the others stay. You don't have to worry," Zhao Xueqing said with a smile. "But there's something regrettable," Jiang Tian said with a wry smile. "Originally, we planned to go back to your family during the spring festival. But now, I'm afraid we have to change the itinerary. This matter will have to wait for a while. You have to go back to the Tianqing school's dojo immediately. It's safer there." "I understand." Zhao Xueqing was reasonable and smiled. "There's no hurry. I'll wait for you to come back during the Qingming festival. Let's go to my family and have a look. Let's worship my mother together." Sigh. "It seems that I'm not invincible before I defeat the Yin sect and the ruins of immortality. At this time, Jiang Tian felt that his hands and feet were tied. He also felt a little guilty toward Qing'er in his heart. He did not like this feeling very much. With a flick of his sleeves, his eyes were sharp and murderous. This time, I'm going to kill 10,000 immortals and intimidate the entire Yin sect. Finally, I'll find the entrance to the ruins of immortality, kill my way in, and become the master of the ruins of immortality. There are still 2 or 3 months until the Qingming festival. At least I can conquer the heavenly star small world. Chapter 878. Following Jiang Tian's order. The Tianqing school's front line shrank again, and all the secular forces entered the Tianqing school's dojos. The dojos such as Amei, Diansang, Wudang, Tianshan, and Shinong School also entered a state of emergency. All the powerhouses were diligently cultivating, ready to deal with the possible invasion of the hidden sect at any time. Hong Yi led dozens of array formation and refining experts of the refining branch to Huaxia, going back and forth for hundreds of miles to repair or reinforce the great protective array of the various dojos. The Sidoni Scientific Research Institute also set up small coalition systems in these dojos to strengthen their attack and defense. At this time, Yi Tianren also received Jiang Tian's summons and came to the central hall of the Tianqing school. He tidied his clothes and kowtowed to Jiang Tian, his face extremely solemn and respectful. Disciple Yi Tianren greets master. Get up. Jiang Tian smiled gently. At this time, he was wearing a plain white robe, and his black hair was tied into a ponytail. The few strands of white hair that were produced when he used the time-reversing blade had not completely disappeared, and were stuck in his black hair, adding a sense of vicissitudes and profoundness to him. Yes. Master. Yi Tianren stood up and bowed respectfully again. Heavenly man, where did you learn the last move of transforming into a sword? Jiang Tian paced in the vast and ventilated hall in wooden clogs. The wooden clogs stepped on the clean black marble floor, making crisp and pleasant sounds. In the early years of the Republic, I was just a scholar living in seclusion in the Lulikang area of Yanjing. I often went to the Lulikang area to search for treasures, and I found this ancient scroll in a small stall. Yi Tianren took out a yellow craft scroll and handed it to Jiang Tian with both hands. Jiang Tian was not interested and shook his head. I thought you had discovered some ancient cultivation ruins, but here I am. I didn't expect to find it in an antique stall in the downtown area. You're too lucky. The big explosion in the sky above Yanjing should have been caused by the hidden sect's powerhouses being killed by Master. Yi Tianren asked. Yes. It's the people of the Tianqing Palace. Jiang Tian said lightly. It's the Tianqing Palace. Yi Tianren heard this, his body shook, and his expression changed drastically. When I was studying in Kunlun Mountain, I once read ancient books. I found that the Tianqing Palace is indeed a sect. Is a large sect, comparable to some large sects in the ancient times. But, the people of the sects will absolutely not allow anyone in the secular world. I'm afraid they came this time, they are here. Why do you think they have bad intentions? Jiang Tian raised his eyebrows and asked. Master, the 9 elders of Hongmeng were powerhouses who wanted to ascend to the top of the Tianqing realm. However, when they were breaking through to the Tianqing realm, they were crippled by the heavenly punishment divine curse sent by the powerhouses of the ruins of immortality and the sects. Yi Tianren showed a sorrowful expression and said, when I was traveling around the world, I once learned from the 9 elders of Hongmeng for 3 years. The pig slaughtering knife technique and many other cultivation methods that I used were taught by them. The senior who taught the pig slaughtering knife technique was from the late Ming dynasty. When he broke through to the Tianqing realm, he once waved his knife at the sky, but he was struck down by a thunderbolt and his arms were crippled. After witnessing the 9 elders of primordial world's formidable cultivation, their extraordinary comprehension ability and natural endowment, as well as their miserable state in their later years, this junior was filled with anger and frustration, and it stimulated this junior to gradually comprehend the god-slaying sword technique. Yi Tianren showed a look of anger and said hatefully, those people of the sects consider themselves immortals. They are high and mighty and look down on the world. They never put the mortals in their eyes. They also don't allow us to set foot in the ruins of immortality and the sects. On what basis? Yes. They are not that great. Jiang Tian nodded and said mockingly, when I met the Taoist of Qing Xian, he was very arrogant and kept calling me an abandoned ant in the wasteland. However, he was still killed by my sword. The key is that not only do these people of the sects not allow the mortals to enter the ruins of immortality and the sects, they also intend to encroach on the earth. They killed the Tianqing realm powerhouses so that the earth could rest and recuperate. Ha, it seems that they treat the earth as their own ranch. Yi Tianren said hatefully, now, the 9 elders of Hongmeng have lost their ambition to ascend to the heavens. However, they know the existence of the sects and the ruins of immortality. They take turns to stop their blood flow and stop their lifespan. Every time, a few of them stay awake. Once the powerhouses of the ruins of immortality and the sects invade, they will come out of the mountains and fight to the death. Jiang Tian smiled lazily and said in a relaxed manner, the 9 elders of primordial chaos can be considered to be dragons and phoenixes amongst men, but in my eyes, they're too cowardly and useless. Jiang Tian raised his eyebrows and asked, why should we wait for them to attack? We can take the initiative to kill them. The earth is just a wasteland. They want to encroach on it. Their place is a paradise. There is no reason for us to be polite. Yi Tianren was first shocked when he heard this. Then, he quickly reacted and trembled with excitement. He clapped his hands and exclaimed, Master, you are right. What Master said makes sense. Junior thinks so too. Even though Junior has been called a lunatic by the 9 Grand Mist Elders, Junior is still determined to succeed. If we destroy the ruins of immortality, we will be gods. The people of the sects were too powerful. In the Middle Ages, their status was extremely respected. They roamed the world and were invincible. Even the semi-hidden sects on earth were not in their eyes. The Mount Shu sword sect originally had 2 branches, Qingcheng and Amei. It was said that at the end of the Ming dynasty, the Qingcheng sword sect once provoked a certain sects. The sects only sent 1 person, and in one night, they killed more than 10 immortals and earth immortals. The Qingcheng sword sect was destroyed. It was during the Middle Ages. The semi-hidden sects at that time were much more powerful than the ones now. However, the cultivation world on earth was still suppressed by the sects. They were like ants crawling on the ground, unable to breathe. Since then, no one dared to provoke the people of the sects, let alone seize their dimensional world dojo. As the largest small world of the sects, the ruins of immortality was also known as the Heavenly Court. It was said that it was the place where the gods lived. It was the home of the gods. The 9 elders of Hongmeng, each one of them was a stunning existence that had shocked the world. Many of them were state advisors and sect leaders. However, after being attacked by the sects and the ruins of immortality, they were full of fear and wariness. When Yi Tianren was comprehending the deity-slaying sword technique, they did not have much confidence in Yi Tianren. They did not want Yi Tianren to take the risk and pour cold water on them every day. This made Yi Tianren very depressed. At this time, Jiang Tian's words really made Celestial Ye's heart happy, and he was full of worship. The key was that Jiang Tian came from a super civilization on the other side of the universe, and he shared the same fate as the human race. Yi Tianren suddenly realized that a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity had arrived. A chance for an ant to rise from the wasteland and kick the people of the sects of immortality off the throne and occupy it. An opportunity to rewrite the fate of mankind had arrived. An opportunity to let ordinary people ascend to a higher level of life and turn Earth into a cultivation planet, dominating the universe. The ruins of immortality is a little far after all. Jiang Tian paced slowly with his hands behind his back. He sighed with a deep gaze. I haven't found the path to the ruins of immortality yet. I still lack a few pieces of the map. Indeed, the ruins of immortality are too mysterious. Yi Tianren's face darkened and he smiled bitterly. I and the 9 elders of Hongmeng have searched for many years, but we still only know bits and pieces. However, I already know the path to the heavenly star small world. Jiang Tian's spirit was lifted. He took out a few long and narrow jade talismans that looked like keys. His eyes flickered with uncertainty as he said coldly, "These are actually a kind of array pestle for a teleportation array. I got them from the Taoist of Qing Xian. As long as we insert the array pestle into the teleportation array on Earth, we can break open the dimensional channel and enter the heavenly star's small world." Great! That's great! I'm willing to follow Master and kill them to my heart's content. Yi Tianren was excited and murderous. He then bowed and asked, "But Master, where is the teleportation array?" Jiang Tian gave him a location. Yi Tianren was stunned. He couldn't believe it and said, "How could it be overseas?" Jiang Tian searched the memories of immortal Master Yuan and the Taoist of Qing Xian. The teleportation array to the Heavenly Star Palace's dimensional space was in a nunnery in the Heavenly Valley of Malaysia. Therefore, Yi Tianren was shocked and surprised. He thought it should be in the many famous mountains and rivers of Huaxia. But thinking about it carefully, it was not strange. According to the information that had been obtained, these dimensional spaces with the ruins of immortality as the core were likely to be created by the hands of the ancient powerful cultivators. At that time, the ancient powerful cultivators had probably surpassed the golden core and reached the soul formation stage. They could travel thousands of miles freely on ancient Earth and had the power to divide land into rivers and move mountains and fill seas. It was not strange that they had been to Malaysia. Malaysia was not far from Singapore. Jiang Tian took a private plane and rushed to Singapore with Yi Tianren and the old dragon who had turned into a big black dog. On the way, Jiang Tian taught Yi Tianren some basic cultivation methods. Immediately, Yi Tianren was enlightened. It was as if the door to a new world had been opened. He was extremely grateful to Jiang Tian. When Jiang Tian and the others arrived at the Star Continent, immediately, the Prime Minister of Singapore, Li Xianlong, his son Li Fifan, Master Hong Chan, and other overlords of the Chinese Society of Singapore went to the airport to welcome them. "Master Kong, my unfilial son offended Master Kong a few days ago. This old man apologizes to you." Li Xianlong kowtowed to Jiang Tian in front of everyone. He was trembling and his face was full of uneasiness. "The ignorant are innocent. Get up," Jiang Tian said lightly. That night, Li Xianlong hosted a banquet to entertain Jiang Tian and Yi Tianren. The big black dog also followed. During the banquet, the guests and the host enjoyed themselves. However, when they learned that Jiang Tian and the others were going to the Heavenly Temple in the Heavenly Valley, Li Xianlong and the others suddenly looked strange and said in surprise, "Master Kong is going there." Chapter 879. Why? Do you know about this place? Jiang Tian asked in surprise. The Tongtian nunnery is so mysterious. Master Hong Chan said with a serious face. It is said that there are magical medicines there that can make people immortal. Moreover, the divine nuns in the nunnery drink the wind and drink the dew. Even if they are 100 years old, they still look young. He heaved a sigh. However, the Taoists in the nunnery seem to think highly of themselves. They focus on cultivation and never interact with people from the secular world. Otherwise, with their strength, if they wanted to fight for power in the secular world, how could Wang Chongyan have the chance to control Singapore? That's right. Li Xianlong smiled awkwardly. 10 years ago, I was already the Deputy Prime Minister of Singapore. I once wanted to meet the deity of Singapore with the Prime Minister of Malaysia to be enlightened. However, I was slapped by the little Taoist nun who was guarding the door. She even killed a few of my bodyguards. However, the Tongtian nunnery is the guardian of Malaysia. Even the Prime Minister of Malaysia didn't dare to offend it. He even knelt down and kowtowed to apologize. They didn't even dare to speak for me. I had no choice but to swallow my anger. It was the biggest humiliation of my life. I have never talked about it in public. Master Hong Chan was also there at that time. That's right. I think the little Taoist nun is only a teenager, but she should be at the transcendent state or even half a step away from the immortal state. After Master Heng Chan said that, a deadly silence fell over the area. Everyone's face turned pale as they widened their eyes in disbelief. The Tongtian nunnery had reached the transcendent state or even the immortal state in her teens. The Tongtian nunnery is just a branch of the Starry Sky Palace. Jiang Tian nodded calmly. He didn't find it strange at all. The Tongtian nunnery was like a relay station for the Starry Sky Palace, but it was already a part of the Starry Sky Palace. There were over 100 Earth-level deities and human-level deities in the Starry Sky Palace, so it was not surprising that the nuns there had reached the transcendent state or the immortal state. Grand Master Jiang, you must be extremely careful on this trip. Li Fifan said excitedly. I have been to the Tongtian nunnery several times. It's amazing. I heard that they have connections with aliens. I heard that there were aliens who descended from the sky in a flying saucer. 10,000 streaks of lightning were released, scorching a large part of the mountain forest, and the sound was heard for several li. This child, what nonsense are you spouting? Li Xianlong glared at his son, feeling that he was making a fool of himself. What he said might be true. Jiang Tian smiled faintly and sipped his tea. The so-called flying saucer should be a flying device that could break through the void. It was really similar to a flying saucer. What? Are there really aliens? Everyone's expression changed drastically as they were shocked. However, my target this time isn't the sky-penetrating nunnery, but the Starry Sky Palace behind it. Jiang Tian smiled faintly and explained his intentions. Oh, Mother. Master Kong, are you going to fight aliens? Is this Star Wars? Isn't that too awesome? Can you take me there? Li Fifan was shocked, and he was full of worship. What can you do there? To be cannon fodder. Li Xianlong was so angry that he wanted to kick him. Every battle Master Kong fought was extremely dangerous and earth-shattering. This time, it would be even more dangerous. However, Jiang Tian did ask Li Fifan to accompany him. He didn't ask him to go to the Starry Sky Palace with him. The space-time wind would tear him into pieces in an instant. Jiang Tian only asked him to accompany him to the sky-penetrating nunnery. He had explored the sky-penetrating valley more than once, so he knew the way. Li Xianlong's family was one of the top Chinese families in Singapore. They had connections in both politics and business. Li Fifan was born in a wealthy family. His grandfather and father had served as the prime minister of a country. He was a real prince in Singapore, and he was very popular in Southeast Asia. After they arrived at Penang in Malaysia on Li Fifan's private jet, a few Malaysian nobles immediately came to pick them up and provide them with a car. 2 days later, 2 off-road vehicles stopped at the entrance of a valley shrouded in clouds and fog. Huh? That's not right. Why are there so many people here? Li Fifan was surprised. At this time, hundreds of people were walking toward the sky-penetrating nunnery on the mountain road in the valley. They seemed to be rich and powerful. The sky-penetrating valley had been deserted for a long time. It was the first time that it was so crowded. Brother Fifan, long time no see. Why are you here? Jiang Tian was about to go in when he suddenly heard someone greeting him from behind. He turned around and saw a luxurious motorcade parked on the side of the road. There were BMW, Mercedes-Benz, and several limousines with the symbol of the Malaysian royal family on them. Inside the carriage, there were also many beautiful and tactful female servants and attendants. A dozen armed special forces of the royal family patrolled the motorcade. Their eyes were as sharp as eagles and their bodies were as tall as mountains. Although they didn't have any internal force or true qi, they had undergone professional training. Their movements were neat and tidy. The one who spoke was a well-dressed young man. Commander Zhao. I want to enter the sky-penetrating nunnery and meet the old immortals. Please do me a favor and introduce me to them. Lu Fifan smiled. He didn't expect to meet an old friend. This young man was Commander Zhao. He was a member of the Malaysian royal family and had the title of commander. He and Li Fifan called each other brothers and were very close. There were 9 royal families in Malaysia. The head of the royal family was called Raja, or Sultan, which meant king. The head of state selected from the 9 royal families was called Grand Duke. They belonged to the privileged class in Malaysia. Anyone who offended them would be severely punished. Don't worry. It will work this time. Commander Zhao whispered mysteriously. The 3 people I'm following are very powerful. They have a good relationship with the sky-penetrating nunnery. Li Fifan was very smart. He quickly pulled Commander Zhao aside and said, "Don't tell them my real identity. It's not good for them." "I understand." Datuk Zhao chuckled and nodded. At this time, an arrogant old man slowly walked down from an SUV. The old man had a white face and no beard. He was wearing a long robe, but his steps were steady. He was an immortal state cultivator and his eyes were burning. Behind him was a man and a woman. The man was in his 30s. He was wearing a similar long robe and mandarin jacket, but it was a bright yellow color. He wore a jade thumb ring with an excellent head of water. He held a folding fan in his hand and had a very eye-catching braid. His bearing was strict and disciplined, but his expression was arrogant and haughty, as if he was a noble from the heavens. The woman was a few years younger. She was wearing a red cheongsam and high heels. She was beautiful and elegant, like a princess of the Qing dynasty. Datuk Zhao hurried to greet him. He lowered his head and bowed. Then, he pointed at Jiang Tian and the others and whispered something in the old man's ear. "Brothers, are you believers of the sky-penetrating nunnery?" After hearing Commander Zhao's introduction, the old man looked at Li Fifan and asked. His voice was hoarse like a eunuch's. "That's right. I'm from Singapore. My surname is Li and I want to join the sky-penetrating nunnery. These are all my attendants. How should I address you?" Li Fifan hurried to greet him and said with a smile. On the way, Jiang Tian had told him to hide his identity and enter the sky-penetrating nunnery to gather as much information as possible. Then, he would get close to the teleportation array and be teleported to the sky-penetrating palace. After all, the sky-penetrating palace already knew that the Azure Mystic sect disciple and the others had died at the hands of Jiang Tian. If the people of the sky-penetrating nunnery destroyed the teleportation array, Jiang Tian would be in trouble. The old man's surname is Hai. This is my family's. Young Master and Young Lady Jean. The old man said indifferently. Reclusive royalty. The descendants of the Qing dynasty. I didn't expect them to come out and collude with the sky-penetrating palace. Yi Tianren raised his eyebrows and immediately sent a message to Jiang Tian with his soul energy. Reclusive royalty had existed for a long time, but most of them didn't interfere with the secular world. After the Republic of China, there had been no news of them. Jiang Tian nodded slightly and said with his soul energy, "It seems that the sky-penetrating palace wants to unite some forces to deal with me. Maybe they are leading the way again." At this time, the young Master Jean said coldly, "Lord Hai, what are you talking about with them? They are just a group of lowly ants in the secular world." A trace of anger flashed across Li Fifan's face. After all, his status was not ordinary, and he had never been humiliated like this. However, when he saw that Jiang Tian didn't change his expression, he immediately pretended to be subservient. He took out an antique jade plate from his pocket and said with a smile, "Young Master Jean, I have always wanted to be a disciple of the sky-penetrating nunnery, but I have never been recommended by an expert. I wonder if young Master Jean can recommend me today." The young Master Jean didn't even look at him and said proudly, "Recommend me? Do you know why we're attending this gathering? If I tell you, you will be scared to death. Young Master Jean, please enlighten me." Li Fifan said humbly. "An immortal will come to the secular world to kill Kang Te Chu. We are here to invite the immortal to come to the secular world." The young Master Jean said disdainfully. Next to him, Datuk Zhao's expression changed slightly, but he didn't say anything. The Li family of Singapore was attached to Kang Tae-chu, but the Jin family of reclusive royalty and the sky-penetrating nunnery were also very powerful. He couldn't afford to offend either of them. Brother. Kang Tae-chu is very powerful, and his forces are spread all over the world. What if the news is leaked? Miss Jean frowned, as if she thought that the young Master Jean was too talkative and shouldn't reveal such a secret. Yalan, so what if I tell you? So what if the news is leaked? The young Master Jean said disdainfully with a mocking expression. In the wasteland world, Kang Tae-chu is very powerful. He is a half-step fairy immortal and controls a country and a sect. But so what? The young Master Jean flicked his sleeves and said disdainfully, in the eyes of the immortals of the Yin sect, he is just an ant. He is just a mortal who can't even compare to our reclusive royalty, let alone the immortals. Young Master, Kang Tae-chu's strength can't be underestimated. Eunuch Hai shook his head with a wry smile and said gently, you have to treat him with caution. In this old man's opinion, we'd better not get involved in this mess. Humph. The young Master Jean snorted and said disdainfully, Eunuch Hai, you are afraid of him, but I am not. I am a man of reclusive royalty, the son of heaven. If he dares to be arrogant in front of me, I can kill him with one slap. Chapter 880. It turned out that Mr. Jin's surname was Aizen Joro and his given name was Zihan. He was a descendant of the Aizen Joro. However, the Aizen family had gone into seclusion a long time ago and was not allowed to interfere with the order of the world. He was already half a step away from the immortal state and thought highly of himself. He thought that Jiang Tian's reputation was undeserved and did not give a damn about Jiang Tian. Eunuch Hai shook his head and let out a wry smile. There was a hint of disappointment in his eyes. The woman of Shang dynasty had no idea about the loss of her country. It had been a few hundred years, and yet he was still dreaming of restoring it. What a joke! Most importantly, he was too arrogant. Just like those old fellows of their ancestors, he thought of himself as a superior nation and was old-fashioned and conservative. In the end, his country was still destroyed by the Westerners' ships and cannons. However, he was just a servant after all. There were some things that he could not say. Li Fifan clapped his hands and praised, Mr. Jean, you have a sharp eye. We are on the same page. Do you know the Guo family of Nanyang? Yes, they are just a local tycoon. Jean Zihan waved his folding fan and said proudly. Li Fifan said indignantly. Back then, the Guo family was full of kind-hearted people, but because the young lady of the Guo family, Guo Lily, offended Jiang Taichu unintentionally, Jiang Taichu exterminated the entire family. Not even a chicken or a dog was spared. Everyone in the upper class of Singapore was in danger and could not eat or sleep well. He patted his chest, spittle flying everywhere as he said impassionately, if an immortal descends to the mortal world and is able to destroy this evil Jiang Taichu, I am willing to do my part. My family is not rich, so I can't help much. However, I can provide a few 100 million in funds or a few airplanes or ships. Jiang Tian and Yi Tianren looked at each other and smiled without saying a word. This son of a bitch is good at acting. It would be a waste of his talent if he didn't work as an extra in a movie studio. Really? Jean Zihan's eyes lit up and she said happily, since that's the case, from now on, you're my little brother. Although he thought highly of himself and was a martial artist, his country had been destroyed for a long time, and the little wealth that had been passed down from his ancestors had long been eaten up by them. His current situation was that, my ancestors were also once rich, while he himself was already embarrassingly short of money, so he was exceptionally poor. At this time, Li Fifan said that he wanted to donate money, which was exactly what Jean Zihan wanted. When she was about to fall asleep, someone handed her a pillow. The next moment, he put his hands behind his back, puffed out his chest, and said proudly, "It's your honor to accept you as my underling. Do you know who I am? Old man, I see that your earth pavilion is large and round, and your head is towering. You have a royal aura. Could it be that you're a descendant of the royal family?" Yi Tianren interrupted with a smile. Jin Zihan suddenly closed the folding fan in his hand and patted it heavily in the palm of his left hand. She said with a smile, "Little Li, your servant knows his stuff." He was full of arrogance, and his eyebrows were raised to the sky. He said proudly, "That's right, I am a descendant of the royal family. In the past, I could be a red-crowned iron hat and inherit it." He put his hands behind his back and said with great enthusiasm, "Now, the world is going to change greatly, and chaos is coming. Immortals are about to descend to the mortal world and govern the mortal world. My Jin family is meritorious in welcoming the immortals, and the immortals will help me restore the dynasty. Maybe I will be the emperor. Little Li, do a good job. When it's done, I will at least give you a position as a governor." "Thank you, young Master Li. I will do my best. If you have any orders, I will not hesitate." Li Fifan hurriedly thanked him and bowed deeply to hide the twitching smile on his face. Did this Jin guy come from the Hengdian film and television city? Did he go crazy because of his acting? Restore the dynasty. Don't you know what era it is now? A nuclear weapon can turn you into ashes. What a joke. Alas, we can't do without an emperor. Now, I'm back. Jin Zihan flung his sleeves and sighed deeply, showing some vicissitudes of life. The situation is not good. What does Li Fifan want to do? It's so weird. No, I have to leave first. Dadak Xiao was worried and anxious. He said goodbye to Jin Zihan and Li Fifan. Jiang Tian and the others didn't need to ask him to stay. So, only Jiang Tian, Yi Tianren, and Li Fifan were left. They followed young Master Jin and the other two people to the Tongtian nunnery. After 3 hours of trekking, they finally arrived at the Tongtian nunnery. The Tongtian nunnery was hidden in a dense forest. The palace was old and small, but it was full of incense, and the pleasant smell of sandalwood lingered in the air. The statues of the 3 pure ones and Yuan Tiangang were enshrined in the front, middle, and back halls, as well as the memorial tablets of the leaders of the previous generations. The slightly spacious middle hall was already filled with guests. There were warriors, Taoist priests, monks, some rich people in the secular world, and even some people in ancient costumes. "Welcome, Mr. Jin. These friends don't look familiar." Seeing the arrival of guests, a beautiful Taoist nun immediately came to greet them and checked their jade plates and invitation letters. This Taoist nun was 16 years old. Her hair was tied into a bun, and there was an antique jade hairpin worth at least 1 million yuan in it. No wonder my father wanted to be a disciple of the Tongtian nunnery. There are so many beautiful women here. Seeing this, Li Fifan's eyes widened, and he almost drooled. Taoist nun Lan Xiang, these 3 are my attendants. Jin Zihan, who was arrogant outside, hurriedly cupped his fists respectfully and said in a low voice, "Although they don't have high cultivation, they are still very influential in the secular world. This time, they are here to help. Taoist nun Lan Xiang, please do us a favor. Then please come in, and don't walk around. Today, Divine Nun Wu Sun is presiding over the meeting, which is different from the past. If you offend her, you will all die." Seeing Li Fifan's frivolous behavior and shifty eyes, and Jiang Tian and Yi Tianren seemed to have no cultivation, the Taoist nun secretly despised them. She warned them coldly and let them in. Reclusive royalty is not only the Jin family, but also the Li family, who supports the celestial immortals of the celestial palace. They are the descendants. After entering the main hall, they sat down on chairs. Jin Zihan's face was slightly stern and said in a low voice, "They have a closer relationship with the celestial palace. After all, the current leader of the celestial palace is the descendant and disciple of Yuan Tiangang, who was the imperial preceptor of the Tang dynasty. The celestial palace hasn't been on Earth for hundreds of years. It seems that they don't have many supporters in the secular world." Yi Tianren's sharp eyes looked around and said in a low voice. He listened to their chit-chat and self-introduction. These people had a net worth of about 1 billion. Some of them were officials from small countries in Southeast Asia, but their positions were not very high. In terms of cultivation, there was an immortal state warrior among the members of the Li family of the reclusive royalty. Jin Zihan and eunuch Hai of the Jin family were also at the immortal state. However, the rest of them were all transcendent state internal force users. In the mortal world, such a cultivation could be the master of a sect or a great figure. It was shocking and extraordinary. However, in the eyes of Jiang Tian and even in the eyes of Yi Tianren, they were just ants that couldn't withstand a single blow. Jiang Tian nodded and immediately scanned the hall with his immortal will to look for the teleportation array. In the end, his pupils shrank slightly, and his eyes focused on the statue of Yuan Tiangang. Then, Jiang Tian's immortal will passed through the wall of the main hall again and fell on a Taoist nun in a black outfit in the back hall. The Taoist nun had wrinkled skin and a crane's head. Although she looked old, she was also an immortal state warrior. She must be the master of the Tongtian nunnery, immortal nun Wu Sunday. The old nun in a black outfit sat cross-legged on a cushion with a horsetail whisk behind her back. She was discussing matters with her disciples and giving orders. The Qin Zongheng and the 6 major martial arts families of Yan Jin have been destroyed by Kang Te-chu. There is no one in the secular world to guide the Sky Star Palace. After hearing the disciples' report, immortal nun Wu Sun pulled a long face and said with anger, "This is very troublesome. After all, if we want to take over the secular world, we have to go through this and cultivate a group of political supporters. Immortal nun, reclusive royalty. Aren't the Jin family and the Li family more powerful than the Qin Zongheng? Why do we have to look for a new agent?" A young nun asked in confusion. They are indeed more powerful than the Qin family, but the problem is that they don't have much influence in the secular world. Immortal nun Wu Sun shook her head and frowned. In fact, once they are born, they will be eradicated by the secular regime as feudal evils and heretics. If they come out and mediate with the secular world, it will only arouse suspicion and lead to negative consequences. So, you have to continue looking for a suitable agent. We can expand the search in Southeast Asia, Myanmar, Laos and other places. But the most important thing is to look for them in the region. After all, this is the site of the ancient cultivation planet. Once the spirit qi there is recovered, it will be much stronger than other places. If it doesn't work, then we can only kill a group of people to scare them. Let them know that the deities of the Yin sect are not to be offended. The more she thought about it, the angrier she became. Her voice was hoarse like the cry of an old bird, and her sinister eyes were exceptionally frightening. Also, because the Qing Xian Paozi was killed, the palace master is furious. He wants to come out of seclusion and kill Kang Te-chu. If you want to sneak into Sidoni, it would be best if you can become a disciple of Kang Te-chu and find out more about Kang Te-chu and his disciples. Also, if the Starry Palace wants to take control of the wasteland world, it would be better to open a gap in Sidoni. Sidoni is a bit of a theocracy. As long as we kill Kang Te-chu and take over Tianqing School, we can basically take over Sidoni as well. Chapter 881. At this point, Taoist nun Wu Sun's face was filled with fear. This poor nun heard that Jiang Taichu not only has a powerful cultivation, but he's also extremely ferocious and vicious. He's ruthless and vicious to the extreme, and he'll easily annihilate families and destroy cities and countries. Qin Zongheng and the others were killed by him, which is a warning to us. This guy is not simple. We have to be careful. Those disciples who are wandering outside should return to the nunnery immediately and strengthen the security. Although our nunnery is hidden and has been low-key for hundreds of years, we are still in the same time and space as him. Who knows if he will come here? Taoist nun Wu Sun gave out orders one by one to strengthen the security. Only then did she feel slightly relieved. Finally, she stood up and walked toward the middle hall, surrounded by a few Taoist nuns. Divine Nun Wu Sun. Divine Nun Wu Sun is here to see you, Divine Nun Wu Sun. Seeing Divine Nun Wu Sun, many rich people and high-ranking officials present were shocked. They rushed to kneel down and kowtow with reverence in their eyes. They were so excited that they trembled as if they had seen a deity. Greetings, Divine Nun Wusun. We wish Divine Nun Wusun a long life. We wish Tongtian Nunnery a prosperous life. Even Jin Zihan, Jin Yuran and many overlords of the reclusive royalty Li family knelt down and kowtowed to show their respect. Even though the royal families had declined, they were once the children of heaven and controlled a dynasty, so they were much more powerful than the martial arts families like the Qin family in Yanjin. However, compared to the real Yin sects like the Sky Palace, they were too weak. The Yin sects belonged to another world and had a different civilization. In their eyes, they were like immortals. The entire hall was filled with people kneeling down. Only Jiang Tian and Yi Tianren stood proudly like cranes in a flock of chickens. How dare you! Seeing this, Taoist nun Lan Xiang, who led them in, had a gloomy expression on her pretty face. She raised her hand and pointed at Jiang Tian and Li Mu as she shouted angrily, Divine Nun Wushuan has descended upon the human world. You abandoned people of the wasteland, insects and ants, hurry up and kneel down. Are you too stupid? Have you forgotten my instructions? Why aren't you kneeling and kowtowing? Jin Zihan turned around to take a look. She immediately panicked and jumped up. He pulled out a golden soft sword from his waist and said coldly, How dare you offend an immortal? I'll kill you. That eunuch Hai's face was also very anxious. He was so scared that cold sweat broke out. Mr. Jiang, quickly kneel down. Jin Yuran tugged on Jiang Tian's sleeve and once again kowtowed deeply to the divine Nun Wuhan, pleading on Jiang Tian's behalf. Taoist Nun Lan Xiang, please calm down. These two people are just followers we've just taken in. They don't know the rules of the Tongtian nunnery, but they have no intention of disrespect. Please forgive them. Everyone thought that Jiang Tian would kneel down and beg for mercy, kowtow, and admit his guilt. After all, who would dare to provoke the dignity of the Yin sect? Unexpectedly, Jiang Tian only smiled coldly. He stared at Taoist Nun Lan Xiang and said indifferently, Little nun, you want me to kneel down? What's wrong with asking you to kneel down? You've been wronged. We're immortals and fairies. You're just an ant from the secular world. To be able to kneel and witness the glory of the secret order's members is a blessing from your ancestors' graves, it's a great fortune. That's right. This idiot doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Don't waste your time talking nonsense with this kind of ant. Just kill him with a sword. Those beautiful little Taoist nuns were youthful and beautiful, but they thought highly of themselves and were as vicious as snakes and scorpions. Seeing this, they were all high and mighty, scolding Jiang Tian proudly. Aunt, I'm already being lenient by asking you to kneel down. If it were in the past, I would have killed, Taoist Nun Lan Xiang scolded angrily, but her voice stopped abruptly. Her head exploded like a rotten watermelon. Translucent blood and flesh, white brain matter, and skulls flew everywhere. The headless corpse fell to the ground. The skirt of her Taoist robe was open, revealing a pair of snow-white, slender legs. The whole place was dead silent. Everyone was frozen in place like wooden sculptures, not moving at all. Fairy? The Yin sect? What kind of trash is that? You can't even withstand a single blow. Jiang Tian retracted his finger and stood with his hands behind his back. He looked at Taoist Nun Wusun with a smile. How dare you attack the people of the Tongtian nunnery? Crazy. This person is crazy. Isn't he afraid of the wrath of the immortals? Many rich people and high-ranking officials were scared out of their wits. He is a martial artist. He can condense qi into a weapon and kill people in the air. I'm afraid he is an immortal state warrior. One of the experts from the Li family, a reclusive royal family, exclaimed in shock. Immortal. Immortal state warrior. Jin Zihan's face turned pale. She was dumbfounded and could not believe it. Isn't this young man Li Fifen's servant? How could he be so powerful? How could Li Fifen afford an immortal state warrior? You are Kang Te Chu. Divine Nun Wusun's face paled and she stared at Jiang Tian in horror. She had already guessed that Jiang Tian would attack the Tongtian nunnery, but she had never thought that Jiang Tian would do it so quickly. She was completely taken by surprise. That's right. Kang Taechu is here. He is waiting for you to kill him. Jiang Tian cracked a smile and said. Wu Sun, didn't you say that you wanted to kill me? Now that I am here, do it. As soon as these words were spoken, the entire place fell into dead silence. Everyone kept quiet out of fear and no one dared to make a sound. All of them looked at Jiang Tian with dumbstruck expressions as if they'd seen an evil ghost in broad daylight, and tempestuous waves arose in their hearts and were filled with terror. The most powerful overlord in the world, Kang Taechu, was here. The purpose of the gathering at the Tongtian nunnery was to discuss how to deal with Kang Taechu. Everyone had insulted and disrespected Kang Taechu. Now that they'd bumped into Jiang Taichu, with his personality of easily annihilating people, how could he spare them? Resist? Are you kidding? Who would dare to resist? Who could resist? Deity realm powerhouses were like 3-year-old children in front of Jiang Taichu, unable to withstand a single blow. Grandmaster Jiang, this old nun is only following orders. There are many things that I can't do. Fear surfaced on divine nun Wu Sun's face. She took a step back and her old body trembled. She thought that the Starry Sky Palace had the power to challenge Jiang Tian, but she was only an immortal state warrior. She was too weak. She could count the number of immortal state warriors who had died at Jiang Tian's hands. She was no match for him. Are you begging for mercy? Then you should show me your sincerity. Even if you kneel down and kowtow to me, it depends on my mood whether I will forgive you or not. Besides, you haven't kowtowed to me yet. Jiang Tian smiled coldly. His expression was cold and emotionless as the rings of purple lightning in his eyes widened slightly. Sizzle. 2 purple lightning bolts shot out of Jiang Tian's eyes like the Milky Way and enveloped divine nun Wushuan. The speed of the purple lightning eyes was simply too fast. Moreover, there was no warning when it was used. It was simply impossible to guard against. Therefore, divine nun Wu Sun didn't have time to use many of her offensive and defensive techniques. Only a few protective Dharma artifacts and Dharma treasures shot out dazzling light, forming a few flashing shields. These Dharma artifacts and Dharma treasures came from the Starry Sky Palace and were comparable to half-spirit treasures. However, they couldn't withstand a single blow from Jiang Tian's purple lightning eyes. Boom! 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 The shields were destroyed in the blink of an eye. Then, divine nun Wu Sun turned into ashes. Not even a strand of hair was left. The purple lightning sea also disappeared as if divine nun Wu Sun had never appeared in this world. Only the faint smell of ozone and burnt flesh in the air proved that Jiang Tian had used the purple lightning sea to kill divine nun Wu Sun. Master Kang, I was deceived. Please spare my life. We are young, beautiful, and sensible. We are willing to serve you for the rest of our lives. Thump. Thump. The young and beautiful Taoist nuns couldn't be arrogant anymore. They were so scared that their souls were about to leave their bodies. Their beautiful faces turned pale as they rushed to kowtow to Jiang Tian. Master Kang, we were wrong. We didn't know that this evil nun called us here to discuss how to deal with Master Kang. Otherwise, we wouldn't have come even if we were beaten to death. Master Kang's Dharma artifact and divine ability are famous all over the world. We admire you very much. We can't wait to follow Master Kang and travel the world. The members of the Li family who were paying reclusive royalty also kowtowed and trembled as if they had seen a demon. Master Kang, please forgive me for being blind and not recognizing you. I was rude just now. Jin Zihan also kowtowed to Jiang Tian. She was so scared that tears and snot flowed down her face. Her heart felt like it was about to explode. He is a half-step heaven immortal, or even a heaven immortal. He is the most powerful man in the world. But he pretended to be a little follower of a rich man and pretended to be a pig to eat a tiger. Do all masters have such a bad taste? Jin Zihan wanted to cry but had no tears. She complained crazily in her heart. Originally, Jin Zihan thought that Jiang Tian was Li Fifen's follower and was like an aunt to her. She didn't even look at him. She didn't expect that Jiang Tian was Kang Taechu. At this time, Jin Zihan was so scared that her head was buzzing. She felt cold in front of her eyes and almost fainted on the spot. Didn't you want to slap me to death? Get up and slap me. Jiang Tian's face was full of mockery. He raised his hand and slapped Jin Zihan's face heavily. Slap. Jin Zihan was like a spinning top as she was slapped by Jiang Tian. She was sent flying more than 10 meters away and crashed heavily into the wall, creating a big hole. Chapter 882. Dust and bricks flew everywhere. Jin Zihan directly smashed a human-shaped hole in the wall and flew out. It hurts. Jin Zihan's nose was bleeding wildly. His face was blooming, and half of his face was broken. He lay on the ground like a dead dog. Blood flowed from the corner of his mouth, mixed with a few canine teeth. Aren't you a descendant of the imperial family with a noble status, deep foundation, and powerful strength? Come and kill me. Jiang Tian's eyes were full of mockery. He reached out his right hand and grabbed. Jin Zihan flew back, dancing with joy. He was firmly controlled by Jiang Tian's aura. Like a marionette, he floated in the air. Master Kong, spare my life. Compared to you, what am I? I'm just a dog. Jin Zihan laughed shamelessly. He didn't expect this guy to be so flexible even though he looked so arrogant. You want to be Master Kang's dog? You really know how to flatter yourself. At the door, the large black dog said disdainfully. I'm a dragon, so I'm qualified to be Master Kang's dog, okay? You want to fight for his favor? Are you worthy? Your smile is too ugly. It's even uglier than my large black dog's. So, you can go die. Jiang Tian sneered and threw his hand casually. Boom. One sound. Jin Zihan was heavily smashed to the ground by Jiang Tian like a toad. He directly smashed a human-shaped hole 3 meters deep in the ground. He had completely sunk in. Flames erupted around the crater, and the floor tiles and rocks melted like magma. Spiderweb-like cracks quickly spread outwards, and the entire hall shook violently. Oh my, master, you're too awesome. You directly smashed him into barbecued meat. All that's left is a pinch of salt and cumin. The large black dog jumped out and smiled flatteringly at Jiang Tian. I forgot that I haven't fed you today. It's a pity that old bastard Nun Wushuan has such good cultivation. Jiang Tian smiled faintly. The purple gold divine dragon had a special physique. After devouring the body of an expert, it could refine the blood essence and true qi into its physical cultivation. The purple gold divine dragon had eaten many experts and was now a worldly immortal, which was the first level of the foundation establishment realm. Moreover, he was proficient in many spells, which made him extremely terrifying. Master, I'm not interested in this old thief nun. Her flesh was too tough. This baby dragon can't do it. The large black dog was blabbering as it ran happily to the side of the human-shaped hole. With a roar, it opened its bloody mouth. At this moment, its head had swelled to the size of a large water tank, and its mouth had split open all the way to its ears, revealing large teeth that were as sharp as blades. It looked extremely terrifying. Amidst Jin Zihan's screams, the purple gold old dragon swallowed her into its mouth. Its left front claw grabbed a big bag of spicy strips and started chewing. This kid's skin is tender and his meat is so delicious. Especially with the spicy strips, it's simply perfect. However, if you say that Jin Zihan's smile isn't as beautiful as mine, I definitely won't agree. His warm smile can't be compared to mine at all. Hearing the sound of teeth crunching bones and seeing the scene of flesh and blood flying everywhere, everyone's scalps went numb. Their vision turned black, and their hair stood on end. They shivered like quails in the cold wind. Jiang Tian was too domineering. He killed people with a raise of his hand. One had to know that Jin Zihan was a reclusive royalty. Furthermore, Jin Zihan was actually eaten by a large black dog that could talk. This was too scary. Even though these people present were used to killing, they still felt their hair stand on end. No matter what, Jin Zihan was of the same kind, but she was actually eaten alive. Apart from Eunuch Hai and Jin Yuran, kill everyone else. Jiang Tian said coolly. Yes, master. Yi Tianren immediately moved. He was ruthless and merciless, and with a single sword strike, he directly beheaded the dozen or so beautiful little nuns. These were all the guides of the Heavenly Star Palace. They intended to seize the world of Earth, set off a storm of blood, and create a monstrous disaster. Once they succeeded, billions of people would be plunged into misery and suffering, and the people would have no way to make a living. Moreover, Yi Tianren hated the people of the Hidden Sect world and the Immortal Ruins world the most. How could he show mercy? Brother Heavenly Star, kill slowly. I want to eat while it's hot. The large black dog soared into the air, opened his mouth, and revealed his sharp fangs as he crazily swallowed. Every time the large black dog opened his mouth, he could swallow an expert alive. Even Immortal Realm elites couldn't resist or escape. Only 3 minutes later, the entire sky-reaching nunnery was swept clean. Apart from Eunuch Hai and Jin Yuran, these human rebels were all killed and devoured by the large black dog. Thank you, Master Kang, for not killing us. We are willing to be Master Kang's lackeys. If you have any orders, we will obey without question. Only Jin Yuran and Eunuch Hai were left. They knelt there, trembling, and their faces were pale. Do you know why I didn't kill you? Jiang Tian stood with his hands behind his back and asked indifferently. I don't know. Jin Yuran turned pale and said in a trembling voice. She and Eunuch Hai were strong, but in Jiang Tian's eyes, they were like ants. She didn't know why Jiang Tian spared them. Reclusive royalty intended to cooperate with the hidden sect world and become their guide to attack the secular world. Betraying the human race on Earth is unforgivable. Jiang Tian said coldly. I didn't kill you because I left a pawn in the reclusive royalty. You must carefully observe the reclusive royalty. If there are any changes, immediately report to Tianqing School. Do you understand? Don't worry, Master Kang. I have always thought that the reclusive royalty wants to control the secular world, which is tantamount to a fool's dream. I am willing to help in this matter. Eunuch Hai and Jin Yuran quickly expressed their opinions. Jiang Tian cast 2 talismans and enveloped the 2 of them. Master Kang, the 2 of them suddenly felt a strange force pouring into their hearts. They secretly used all kinds of secret divine powers, but they couldn't get rid of it at all. They couldn't help but change their expressions and exclaim. The heart-burst curse. Jiang Tian said indifferently, and it's a strengthened version, infused with a strand of my divine sense. This divine sense is always monitoring the 2 of you. If you dare to betray me, your hearts will immediately explode. Don't dream of breaking this curse. Even the masters above the sky immortal level don't have this ability. Yes, Master Kang, we will do our best to serve you. The 2 of them looked sad. They were afraid that from now on, they would completely become Jiang Tian's slaves. Don't worry. This curse won't have any impact on your daily life and cultivation. Jiang Tian said lightly. If you do it well, not only will you not make any mistakes, but you will also make contributions. I will reward you handsomely. When I conquer the Yin sect's ruins of immortality, I will bring you in. There will be countless cultivation resources, supreme cultivation techniques, blessed grotto heavens, Dharma treasures and Dharma artifacts. At that time, everyone will trust each other and I will naturally help you come into contact with the curse. Grandmaster Zhang's great kindness, we will never forget it. We will do our best to serve you. We will not hesitate to sacrifice our lives. As soon as he said that, Jin Yuran and Eunuch Hai's eyes lit up and they were overjoyed. They kowtowed deeply to Jiang Tian. Their purpose of working for the Yin sect was to enter the ruins of immortality or the Yin sect and obtain these resources. However, even if they tried their best, they might not get what they wanted. It was more likely that they would become their agents in the secular world. Now, Jiang Tian had given them such a great temptation. How could they not be overjoyed? All right. You can go. I'm sure you can think of a suitable excuse for how Jin Zihan died. Jiang Tian waved his hand and dismissed the two. Li Fifan, you can go too. Jiang Tian said to Li Fifan, who was dumbstruck. Yes, Jiang, Master Kong, Li Fifan's voice was trembling. Everything that he had seen today was too terrifying and too exciting. The three of them hurriedly left. Jiang Tian's sword cut open the Heavenly Master's statue in the middle of the hall. The base was actually a teleportation array. This array was 5 meters in radius and was built with 5-colored muddy soil. It was very sturdy and heavy. It was branded and engraved with obscure and mysterious patterns. There was an aura of time as if it had traveled through time. Moreover, there were some stone slabs and jade pieces sealed in the circular earthen altar. The exposed parts had ancient patterns and symbols engraved with the marks of time. They looked even older than the oracle bone inscriptions. 5-colored altar. It is said that there is an altar cast with 5-colored muddy soil in the ancient pilgrimage grounds on Mount Tai. Yi Tianren was taken aback by the sight. In the historical records of the pilgrimage to Mount Tai, Lord Taisher had written, Flying Heroes Soar, Golden Mud and Stone Record. Pilgrimage to Mount Tai was a very mysterious event in history. It was a ceremony that ancient rulers held to offer sacrifices to heaven and earth. The ancients believed that Mount Tai was the tallest mountain in the world. Therefore, the emperors of the mortal world had to go to the highest mountain to offer sacrifices to the heavenly god and communicate with the heavenly god. Who would have thought that in this remote Southeast Asia, in this remote primeval forest, they would see the legendary 5-colored altar on Mount Tai? This is not an altar, it is a teleportation array. Although it is primitive and crude, it can't be used for interstellar teleportation. However, it can break open the dimensional space and bring us into the small world. Jiang Tian's pupils shrank as he heaved a sigh. Chapter 883. The ruins of immortality and many hidden sects worlds were closely connected to the earth. They were small worlds not far from the earth. Not to mention interstellar travel, even if it was a real big world, the enchantment was very strict and thick. Such a primitive and crude transmission array could not be transmitted smoothly. As for the 5-colored earth altar that Yi Tianren mentioned, it might also be a transmission array left behind from the ancient times. Perhaps in the long river of history, someone had seen the ancient mighty people passing their physical body from there. Then the imperial family knew that the ancient emperors were there to offer sacrifices to the heavens, trying to communicate with the ancient mighty people that they thought were immortals. Jiang Tian thought to himself. When he had time, he still wanted to walk around and take a look, including the Penglai of the East Sea, the Kunlun sect, the Qingqing sect, and so on. Maybe he could find the passage to other hidden sects' dimensional worlds. But now that he had found this transmission array, Jiang Tian naturally had no reason to give up the near for the far. Okay. The array is very complete, and the magic power is not lost. Let's go now. Jiang Tian's face was slightly stern. With a flick of his sleeve, he took the lead and stepped onto the transmission array. Yi Tianren and the big black dog walked onto the circular array plate together. Jiang Tian patted the sky-devouring demonic gourd and took out the jade array pestle that he took from Qing Xian and Immortal Yuan. After thinking for a while, according to a certain pattern, they fell into the array eyes. Boom! The 5-colored transmission array seemed to be injected with a huge amount of energy and trembled slightly. A hazy halo bloomed and shrouded them. Yi Tianren was shocked. He suddenly felt a vast amount of energy pouring into his body. He was nailed to the ground and could not move a step. Oh my God, Master, this is so scary. Hurry up and pick me up. The big black dog bit Jiang Tian's sleeve and screamed, acting cute and coquettishly. I'm just overweight, okay? I've never taken an elevator before. Jiang Tian rolled his eyes at him. Right at this moment, buzzing, intense vibrations rang out. The many jade tablets and stone tablets in the teleportation formation suddenly trembled violently and shone brightly. The many characters and patterns on them actually rose into the air. In an instant, hundreds of millions of runes flashed around the teleportation formation. These characters and patterns seemed to be cast from gold. They had the texture of metal and were unusually heavy. Moreover, it was emitting a bright light, as if stars were shining. It contained incredible spatial power. These runes formed a golden passageway that shot straight into the clouds. It stretched as far as the eye could see, as if it was connected to another spacetime. Boom! Boom! At this moment, Jiang Tian and the others felt a surging gravitational force descend from the sky, enveloping them. Mommy, I can't take it anymore. I'm going to be torn apart. This dragon baby is scared to death. Amidst the violent tremors, the large black dog's figure became blurry. Its fur and muscles were trembling rapidly, as if it was going to be completely annihilated in the next moment. Its face was filled with shock and fear, and it screamed at the top of its lungs. Stop shouting. Jiang Tian glared at him. Light and shadow were born and extinguished, and the rippling light sparkled. The golden symbols and patterns blossomed with incomparably resplendent light. With a whoosh, Jiang Tian and the others were pulled into 3 sharp rays of light by the huge energy. They rose from the ground and disappeared into the horizon. After an unknown period of time. In the star dimension, on a short mountain. Whoosh! A sound like a fighter jet piercing through the sky rang out. A bright beam of light pierced through the air, and the void within a radius of several hundred meters trembled violently. It was chaotic. A moment later, the chaos dissipated, and the dust settled. The world regained its tranquility and clarity. Jiang Tian, Yi Tianren, and the large black dog slowly walked down from the teleportation formation of the 5-colored mutant soil and scanned their surroundings. If they looked up, they would discover that this place was located in a place that didn't look like the human world. Above their heads was a dome of spiritual energy, and below their feet was an irregular but generally rectangular continent. The blue planet was clearly visible. It seemed to have escaped the gravitational field of Earth, but it wasn't far from Earth. At least, it was within the solar system. Lush mountains and surging rivers stretched across this continent that didn't reach the sky and didn't reach the ground. Like a waterfall at the edge of the continent, it fell into the void. However, it was absorbed by a strange force and flowed into the bottom of the continent, forming a subtle cycle. What rich spiritual energy! Yi Tianren stood on the lush grass and took a deep breath. His eyes were intoxicated, and his face was filled with shock. Here, trees towered into the sky like giant umbrellas. They were hundreds of meters tall, and 3 to 5 people holding hands wouldn't be able to encircle them. There were also gurgling springs flowing over the pure white stones. The fragrant grass was lush, and there were wild deer running. Large birds with wings over 10 meters long soared in the sky. Vines as thick as an arm wrapped around the tree trunks like dragons. Not bad. It can be said to be a paradise. It can already allow some birds and beasts to evolve into ferocious mutated beasts. Jiang Tian nodded slightly, and the light in his eyes flickered. In this space, the spiritual energy between heaven and earth was very pure and rich. It formed a milk-like mist, and it had already reached the level of spiritual energy fog. Although it couldn't be compared to the spiritual energy in Jiang Tian's heavenly cycle perpetual array, it was at least as rich as the dragon crouching mountain array in Jinling. According to the memories of the Qing Xian sect disciple, the star dimension has a radius of thousands of kilometers, and the area far exceeds that. Jiang Tian frowned and said slowly, the location of this teleportation array is called Qingyang Town. It's a small town in the border city under the jurisdiction of the Heavenly Star Palace. It's located at the edge of the star dimension. let's go to Qingyang town first. It's best not to reveal our cultivation. First, we need to find out more information about this space. Then, we can find the Heavenly Star Palace's dojo and directly destroy them. Okay. Yi Tianren's spirits were lifted. The big black dog ran happily and quickly followed Jiang Tian's footsteps. Suddenly, Jiang Tian paused slightly and said with a smile, "Interesting, there are actually bandits." On top of a cliff 1 kilometer away. A cute girl in red clothes crawled on the ground and pulled out a black crossbow from her back. The girl had a beautiful face and a trace of murderous intent flashed in her bright eyes. She said coldly, "It should be the people of the Heavenly Star Palace who have returned from the outside world. Get ready to attack." Forget it. Sister Ingluo, the people of the Heavenly Star Palace are very strong. You're only at the 3rd level of Qi refinement. You're too far away. Next to her, a young man lay on the grass with a blade of grass in his mouth and said casually, "Still, we have to kill them." A trace of resentment flashed in the girl's eyes. She said coldly, "Every year, they ask for a high tribute that we can't afford. How many people in our town have they killed?" A tall and muscular young man with a full beard was wearing a waistcoat made of tiger skin, revealing his thick muscles. He stared at Jiang Tian and the other two and said in a rough voice, "Smelly monkey, Ingluo is right. They've used up a lot of magic power to travel through space. They're at their weakest right now. There's no time to lose. Attack." He made a prompt decision and jumped up. Like a cannonball across the sky, he rose 300 to 400 meters high and attacked Jiang Tian. Kill! The young girl Ingluo and the smelly monkey also shot out like 2 whistling arrows, rushing towards Jiang Tian in a hurry. The bearded man was extremely fast. He drew a stream of light in the air and rushed to Jiang Tian's head in a few seconds. Villains of the Heavenly Star Palace, die! Amidst his furious roar, he borrowed the momentum of falling, and his thick and solid arms that were like dragons swung 2 giant axes that were like wheels, chopping down towards the back of Jiang Tian's head. As expected of the world of the Yin sect. The spirit qi of heaven and earth is abundant and the strong are as common as clouds. The transcendent realm's strong people who can intimidate a city or a province on earth are everywhere here. Jiang Tian's divine sense had already scanned the 3 people. At this time, seeing the other party attacking, he only flicked his finger. Clang! The giant axe, which was made of strange metal and weighed over 1,000 kilograms, shot backwards like a meteor with the bearded man in tow. Boom! Wherever the giant axes passed, towering trees turned into dust and mountain rocks collapsed. The giant axes were embedded in a mountain wall and smashed a big black hole that could not be seen. The bearded man rolled on the ground and was carried hundreds of meters away. His face was full of horror and he shouted, "It's over. We've met an immortal state expert." Oh, my God! Immortal state. The stinky monkey ran too fast and could not stop in time. He had to hit a tree to stop. Clang, clang, clang. He knocked down 3 big trees in a row and was covered in dust. He only stabilized himself on the 4th one. He hugged the tree trunk like a monkey and shouted at the top of his voice, "Sister Ingluo, this is too difficult. Let's fight." The girl in red jumped up and down in the forest like a grasshopper and continued to rush toward Jiang Tian. She raised her eyebrows and said angrily, "No, we have to kill them no matter what." Why? The stinky monkey was puzzled. But he had already stepped on the branch and bent it. Then, with the strong rebound force of the branch, he shot out like a whistling arrow. Repeating this over and over again, he leaped through the forest like a monkey, charging towards Jiang Tian. "Stupid monkey, we're not wearing masks. They've already seen us. How can we leave them alive?" Ingluo shouted impatiently. She had already drawn an arc 100 meters away from Jiang Tian's side. At the same time, she pulled the trigger of the crossbow in her hand. Whoosh! Whoosh! Suddenly, Dozens of small arrows shot toward Jiang Tian at a speed comparable to the speed of sound. The crossbow was engraved with obscure and ancient patterns and exuded a strange metallic luster. It was obviously a good Dharma artifact. The arrows were extremely sharp and their attack power was comparable to a sniper rifle. They flashed with a blue light and were obviously dipped in poison. Chapter 884. Get lost. Jiang Tian raised his eyebrows and waved his hand. Boom. There was a loud noise. The surging seventh metal true essence pushed out like a raging wave. Many arrows flew out like flowers in the wind, not even touching Jiang Tian's clothes. Ouch! I got hit by an arrow. Ying Luo also flew out. Suddenly, she screamed, her shoulder stained with blood, looking at Jiang Tian in shock and fear, and quickly jumped back. Trash! Eat my smelly bomb. The smelly monkey arrived in time, covering Ying Luo's retreat while throwing 3 strange magic tools at Jiang Tian. Boom! The 3 magic tools suddenly exploded. Lightning flashed. It turned out to be an extremely rare thunder magic tool. But the thunder attack was just a disguise. In an instant, black smoke filled the air, and a nauseating stench spread, completely shrouding Jiang Tian and the others. Ugh! Too smelly. Was this refined in the toilet? It's simply unbearable. The big black dog was tearing up, holding his stomach with both hands and vomiting violently. This is the essence of my feet, snot, phlegm, bathwater, and other kinds of essence, steamed and dried for 49 days, refined into a peerless smelly balm. You can slowly enjoy it. The smelly monkey laughed evilly and ran away. When the smoke and stench dissipated, the 3 people had disappeared. Damn, when I catch him, I'll throw him into the cesspool. The big black dog was very resentful, he had never suffered such a big loss. Yi Tianren's face was dignified, and he asked, Master, your heaven-swallowing demon gourd seems to have been taken away by the smelly monkey. Do you want to chase after him and eliminate him? No need to chase, they'll be back soon. Jiang Tian turned his hand, and a black porcelain bottle appeared like a magic trick, tossing it in his hand and laughing. At this time, the 3 bandits had run 10 kilometers away and rested in a cave. That man is a pervert. Ying Luo sat on the ground, puffing out her cheeks. How is he a pervert? The bearded man was puzzled. He attacked my chest. Ying Luo clenched her teeth in anger. Lecher, how dare you take advantage of me? I'll kill you. Shameless. The smelly monkey cursed. Then, he took out the sky-devouring demonic gourd and tossed it in his hand. However, I didn't do this deal for nothing. This is definitely a magical treasure. It was worth a lot of crystals. Then we'll be able to pay the tribute. All right. Girl, don't be angry. Hurry up and treat him. Your crossbow bolts are stained with poison. Big Beard said nervously. Then, he pulled Stinky Monkey out so that Ying Luo could take off her clothes and apply the medicine. Aya! The 2 of them had just gone out when they heard Ying Luo's heart-wrenching screams coming from the cave. What happened? The 2 of them hurriedly rushed in and saw that Ying Luo's beautiful eyes were filled with tears as she started sobbing. Not only did he attack my chest, he even stole my antidote. That bastard! Ying Luo wiped her tears and said helplessly. Hurry up and find him before it's too late. Big Beard was anxious. He carried Ying Luo on his back and rushed in the direction of Jiang Tian. Why are you back? With his hands behind his back, Jiang Tian smiled as he looked at the group of 3 bandits that had returned. Stinky Monkey stepped forward, trembling with fear, but his mouth was very tough. He shouted, Return the antidote to us, and I'll tell you where your broken gourd is. Otherwise, you'll never find it. You think I won't be able to find it if you don't tell me? Jiang Tian pulled out the sky-devouring demonic gourd from his back and laughed. How did it come back to you? I buried it a few miles away just now. Stinky Monkey's eyes widened in disbelief. The three of them were so shocked that their faces turned pale, as if they had seen an evil ghost in broad daylight. Jiang Tian smiled faintly. There's a mental imprint I left on it. Even if it's thousands of miles away, it can't escape my eyes. You're from the outside, not from the Starry Palace. Big Beard sized up Jiang Tian and suddenly asked. Yes, I'm from Earth. Jiang Tian didn't know whether to laugh or cry. You're also reckless. You attacked without saying anything. If it weren't for my powerful cultivation, I'm afraid there would be a few more ghosts dying today. You're from Earth, but you have such a powerful cultivation. You must be at the immortal state. Yes, how is that possible? I'm afraid you're even stronger than the disciples of the Starry Palace. Big Beard, Ying Luo, and Stinky Monkey were dumbfounded, and their faces were full of disbelief. In the star dimension, Earth was called the Wasteland, and the mortals there were called the abandoned people of God. They had no cultivation and were as weak as ants, but they didn't expect there to be an existence beyond the transcendent state. May I ask why brother has come to our stellar sky world? Big Beard was obviously simple-minded. He cupped his fists, bowed deeply, and said with a smile. I heard that once the abandoned people of Earth who came here were discovered by the Starry Palace, they would either be captured and enslaved or directly dismembered. Little brother, you must be careful. Is the Starry Palace so overbearing? Jiang Tian flicked his sleeves and stood with his hands behind his back, exuding a faint majestic aura. I, Kang Te-Chu, am here to destroy the Starry Palace. As soon as these words came out. Hiss. The three of them all gasped and looked at Jiang Tian in disbelief. The Starry Palace. This dimensional space was originally not called the Starry Palace dimensional space, but the Star Dimension. Now it was called the Starry Palace, and what it meant was self-evident. In this world, the Starry Palace was like the royal family, with the power to speak. If the Starry Palace was angry, blood would flow like rivers and the sky would change color. For giant cities, 3 major sects, and dozens of large and small sects had surrendered, and all of them respected the Starry Palace. The reason why they rebelled against the Starry Palace was that they were forced to a dead end by the Starry Palace. If they had a way, how would they dare to challenge the Starry Palace? It was like an ant trying to overturn an elephant. But this young man from the wasteland world claimed that he wanted to destroy the Starry Palace. So it's the Tai Chu Celestial Master, this is a misunderstanding. The bearded man immediately kowtowed to Jiang Tian and said anxiously, I'm Qiao Beishan from Qingyang Town, this is my sister Qiao Ying Luo, and my good brother Lu Dehu. We also rebelled against the Starry Palace, but we thought you were its disciples, so we tried to assassinate you. He slapped his thigh and pleaded, it can be said that the flood has flooded the Dragon King's temple, and we don't recognize each other anymore. Master Jiang, please return the antidote to my sister. We are willing to rise up with you and work together for the great cause. I didn't want to make things difficult for you. It's just that this little girl was too ruthless, so I gave her a little punishment. Jiang Tian smiled faintly and threw the black porcelain bottle into the arms of the girl Xiaoying Luo. Xiaoying Luo's pretty little face blushed, and her eyes widened. She looked at Jiang Tian with some reverence. She immediately swallowed a few antidote pills and sat cross-legged on the ground to refine them. A moment later, the poison subsided, and Xiaoying Luo's pale and bruised face regained its healthy redness. Master Jiang, as the saying goes, no discord, no concord. I admire Master Jiang very much. Why don't you come to my house for a few days and wash off the dust of your travels? Qiao Beishan was forthright and generous. He immediately cupped his fists and warmly invited him. Sure. After pondering for a moment, Jiang Tian gladly agreed. At that time, the souls of Heavenly Master Yuan and the others were about to be destroyed, and the information Jiang Tian collected was incomplete. Now that he met these 3 people who were at odds with the Starry Palace, it was a good opportunity to get some information from them. On the way, Qiao Beishan introduced their situation to Jiang Tian and the other 2. The Qiao family is not a small family in Qingyang town, and is one of the 3 richest families. They make a living by refining weapons and can refine weapons that are quasi-magic weapons. They can also set up arrays. Originally, they lived a very prosperous life. But in recent years, the Starry Palace has been trying to become a 3rd-level hidden sect. They have plundered wantonly, and their exorbitant taxes have increased several times, causing the people to suffer, Qiao Beishan said angrily. The hidden sects are divided into different levels? Jiang Tian asked in surprise. That's right. Qiao Beishan said. Master Jiang, you came from the secular world, so you might not know much. Although I haven't been to other hidden sects, I heard that there are dozens of hidden sects in addition to the Starry Palace. According to the statistics of the number of experts, the hidden sects of true cultivation are divided into 5 levels. The lowest level is the 5th level. The 5th level hidden sects only have foundation establishment experts. They don't even have cultivators, only martial artists. As for the 4th level hidden sects, like the Starry Palace, there are hundreds of foundation establishment immortal masters and even 1 golden core expert. Once there are 3 or more golden core experts, they can reach the top of the 3rd level hidden sects. The 3rd level hidden sects have the right to collect annual tributes from the 4th level hidden sections. These tributes are basically made up of cultivation resources. It is said that the palace master of the Starry Palace, Daoist Heaven and Earthly Longyuan, has a golden core cultivation. But he still wants to cultivate 3 golden cores and reach the 3rd level hidden sect. This way, they can collect resources from the other 4th level hidden sects, and even occupy their training grounds. So they can occupy the other small worlds of the hidden sects. Jiang Tian's eyes flashed as he interrupted. That's right, and the other party can't resist and willingly give up their training grounds. Otherwise, they will be attacked by the crowd. Xiao Yingluo interrupted. Because there is a hidden sect alliance to maintain order between the hidden sections. What my brother said are the rules and laws set by the hidden sect alliance. Also, there is trade between the hidden sects.